When he was transported to another world, he found himself alone with the beauty that seduced him, but just when he thought that he was in paradise, a cruel blow fell on him. It turned out that the original owner of the body he was reborn into was a womanizer. And when despair hit him like a heavy wave, fate threw him a gift. He thought he had a great future ahead of him, but then she appeared. Having met such a beautiful girl who turned out to be his wife, he decided to woo her so that it would not become the best son-in-law of all time. Lincoln City. Shu Wushao entered the room and asked the girl what was going on here. The beautiful Lin Qingxi enticingly offered to approach her and sarcastically congratulated her on something. Shu Wushao thought about what was happening. How did this happen in the first place? Immediately, a loud sound caused the beauty and the guy to cry out. The man who burst into the room told Shu Wushao that he had finally found him, his son-in-law. The guy asked his son-in-law how he dared to cheat on his wife and defame her name. Shu Wushao asked the stranger in surprise if he was his brother-in-law. After all, he was single, and when he managed to get married. My brother-in-law shouted on Shu Wushao to be cursed, and how dare he go to bed with another woman on the night of his wedding. The guy just managed to say that he didn't understand anything. The brother-in-law shouted at the guy that he didn't need such a son-in-law in his family and called him a bastard. Shu Wushao tried to reply that it wasn't as he thought. People on the street started asking who was the guy who landed on top of the ground with a loud bang. Shu Wushao said, coming to his senses, "What the hell is going on?" People passing by began to discuss that it was Shu Wushao, the guy who, on his wedding night, had climbed and go to bed with someone else. Some scoffed that he was idle all day long, didn't have any skills, was insignificant in the Dao, and was generally a complete trash. And if he'd stuck to the prenuptial agreement, he'd be content with dinner right now. Shu Wushao wondered what he should do in this situation. The sharp pain made the guy say that something was wrong with his head. Shu Wushao said in a low voice, "Why is his head hurting so much?" The boy cautiously said that it seemed to him that he was at the bottom of a huge bowl and how this was even possible. An unfamiliar voice told Shu Wushao that he was a stupid boy. Shu Wushao shouted that it was really a huge giant talking to him and asked him not to eat it. The guy told the stranger that he hadn't bathed in a month and never wiped his ass in the toilet, so it would be dangerous to eat it. The huge old man said that he had used this special bowl for his rebirth and had planned it for 1,000 years. The old man told Shu Wushao that he needed to use this advantage. Shu Wushao shouted at the huge old man not to dare approach him. The strange old man told Shu Wushao to stop talking nonsense because his ghostly soul was already disappearing fast and it was worth listening carefully. The old man said that in the first place, this rebirth cup can collapse at any time, but as long as it receives food from the owner, the cup will start to recover. Second, the liquid energy will flow back during the reincarnation process. Third, liquid energy feedback is ideal for training anybody. Fourth, the rebirth cup can nourish and restore the soul of its owner. Fifth, Shu Wushao can learn Tao and master the secrets of martial arts with ease. Tired of being patient, Shu Wushao said that sixth, the old man should move his foot away from his face, and didn't he know how much it stank? The old man angrily replied that he was teaching the guy a lot right now, and how dare he do this to him. The old man told the guy that he was just a disgrace to his family, bullying his master and shaming his ancestors. Shu Wushao told the old man what he was talking about and when he was able to become his disciple. The old master replied that the guy was a fucking brat and should know what was being said to him right now. The old master pondered and decided that his time had come. Shu Wushao asked the old man what was going on with him right now. The old master replied that it was something he had done in his life that was important and valuable, a silent sword and medical advice on yin and yang. The old man told Shu Wushao that he would soon disappear and hoped that he would pass on his knowledge further to his follower. Shu Wushao asked what this silent sword and yin-yang medicine was and thought that it sounded really powerful. Shu Wushao exclaimed, "What a terrible stench comes from these scrolls." The old master replied that he apologizes for this, as he has been using the scrolls as a soul for a very long time. Xu Wuzhao said, "What kind of cursed old man is this? And he's definitely as poisonous as a pale toadstool." After coming to his senses, Xu Wuzhao wondered if it was just a stupid dream right now, even though it looked pretty real. But after a moment, Xu Wuzhao thought that these two scrolls were actually in his head, and he could actually feel them. Xu Wuzhao loudly exclaimed to everyone around him that they had just looked down on the main character, but now he would take full revenge on all of them, and they'll find out who he really is. People began to tell each other that Xu Wuzhao was definitely crazy and that he was a real disgrace to Lincoln City. Therefore, you should not play with it, but just go away and ignore it. Xu Wuzhao thought that the previous owner's character must have already sunk into his bones, which was why there was such a reaction to everyone around him. It occurred to the owner of the new body that he really did not care about everything that was happening, and first he should eat properly, and only then go take revenge on all his abusers. Xu Wuzhao looked at the huge signboard and was surprised, thinking that it said Emperor's Hall. Xu Wuzhao thought that the Imperial Eel Hall was quite a good name for an establishment and decided that it was worth visiting this place and finding out what was interesting there. The girls turned to Xu Wuzhao and asked him if he would like to have fun in their company, while calling the guy the owner. One of the beauties told Xu Wuzhao that he hadn't been to this place in a very long time and they missed it. The girl told the guy that she had heard that he was going to get married tonight and suggested that why not come to them after the wedding and have fun in their company as soon as he was free. Xu Wuzhao wondered what exactly this was about and realized that he was well known here. The guy decided that the Imperial Eel Hall is a real abode of beautiful women who want to play with their visitors, and no one really cares about his feelings here. The sumptuous owner of the establishment turned to Xu Wuzhao and said that he had not been here for a very long time and suggested that he go inside as soon as possible. Xu Wuzhao tried to object and said that he didn't want to go with them at all, but the girls said they didn't want to hear about it and would carry him inside in their arms. Xu Wuzhao began to speak a resident of the establishment so that they immediately let him go and put him on the ground. Once inside and seeing the vast array of dishes, Xu Wuzhao decided that it wasn't important yet and that he needed to fill his stomach first, as he was feeling an overwhelming hunger. One of the girls asked Xu Wuzhao not to eat so much now, but rather go and have fun with them on the spacious bed. The second girl informed Xu Wuzhao that she found out that someone had recently invented a new trick in bed and suggested that the guy immediately try it with her, as she was incredibly bored by his company. As Xu Wuzhao ate, he thought that he didn't come here to mess around with these girls. If they found out about it, that he doesn't need all this because he doesn't want to allow what happened last time. Suddenly, a shout was heard and a voice told Xu Wuzhao to get out of the place immediately. Eyewitnesses began to discuss who it was that was making a fuss in the Eel Imperial Hall again. People started saying that it was probably because of the guy inside the brothel who was Xu Wuzhao. Inside the Eel Emperor Hall, panic set in and the girls began to shout that they were very scared and beg for help. Xu Wuzhao thought that what was happening wasn't good at all and that it was a very lassie situation that didn't bode well. The guy who broke into the brothel told Xu Wuzhao that he was a real bastard with swollen balls and was going to pay for everything. Xu Wuzhao, seeing the guy's mood, decided that he should stay calm, and it seems that Yang Weilin came for him, stuck under the number in the city. The residents of the Eel Imperial Hall began to discuss what was happening, saying that Xu Wuzhao was truly shameless to do such a thing. If Qin Sali's father-in-law didn't protect him, he would have died long ago. If Yang Weilin had killed Xu Wuzhao, he would have been considered a murderer in Lincoln City. Yang Weilin yelled at Xu Wuzhao that he was going to die and kill him. Xu Wuzhao told the assailant why he was so ruthless, since they had just met, and he already wanted him dead for some unknown reason. As soon as Xu Wuzhao reacted, he thought in horror that he was very close to losing his manhood. Xu Wuzhao told Yang Weilin that maybe they should discuss it peacefully now and not get so excited over nothing at all. Yang Weilin told the boy that they would talk later when they met in hell. Xu Wuzhao thought in despair, is it really so stupid now and his fun life will end? Yang Weilin thought that he would immediately kill Xu Wuzhao and then Lin Qingxi would be his forever. Yan Weilin exclaimed, "What's going on here?" and had time to wonder where his blade might have gone, as if it had disappeared in a few seconds. The moment is like a mirage. Xu Wushao was surprised by the suddenness of the moment and thought that a real breakthrough of Kai energy had just occurred. Xu Wushao immediately realized that the immortal elder hadn't lied to him back then when they met, and he could actually absorb metal to power the rebirth cup and improve his skills. This discovery surprised Xu Wushao, and he thought that it was all just unbelievable and worth taking advantage of this opportunity in the future. Yan Weiling shouted at Xu Wushao, "Where did the scoundrel put his sword?" Xu Wushao told his assailant to go to hell and ask at his fist where his sword had disappeared. Yan Weilin only managed to reply to the guy that he allowed himself. Xu Wushao told Yan Weilin that he had attacked the wrong person and that it was wrong to bully him like that. Xu Wushao promised that he would now fill Yan Weilin's face until it was the color of a red ripe peach. Xu Wushao said that he would do it for Yang Weilin and Lin Qingxing teaming up to frame him. Xu Wushao's next punch was dedicated to Yang Weilin for simply being a freak and annoying him with his vile shouting. Yang Weilin hissed back that he had never expected such a rebuff from Xu Wushao. Yang Weilin asked the guy that how he was able to make a sneak attack against him. Xu Wushao replied to Yang Weilin that Lu Xun once said that the winner is the king, and who cares about the process of becoming a king? Yan Weilin could only croak out that who exactly was this Lu Xun that Xu Wushao was talking about, but the next moment he was silenced by another blow and died quietly lying on the road. The residents of the city who witnessed the incident thought that it was all unbelievable, and since when did Xu Wushao become so strong? Xu Wushao thought that it was a good thing that he was able to defeat Yang Weilin with his Kai energy. Xu Wushao laughed and said that he was finally able to strike back and take revenge on Yang Weilin. The voice spoke to Xu Wushao and asked him to wait. Xu Wushao pondered and remembered that this voice belonged to his father-in-law Qin Sili. Xu Wushao tried to tell his father-in-law that he had misunderstood everything about what was happening here. Qin Sili told Xu Wushao that did he still remember that he was his father-in-law? The people around him taunted Xu Wushao, saying that that was all and his son would be son. The King family is one of the 3 most influential families in Lingen City. It wasn't clear that if the family didn't have some sort of contract that would justify this marriage, then how could they give their daughter to a jerk like this Xu Wushao? And now this happened, what a pity, Xu Wushao went to a brothel right on his wedding day. And apparently, they really made a mistake in choosing their future son-in-law. Xu Wushao said to his father-in-law, Qin Sili wondered if he could only explain his presence in the brothel to the excellent menu of the place, then would he believe him in such a case? Qin Sili's father-in-law exclaimed to Xu Wushao's son-in-law that it was the stupidest excuse he had ever heard to come to a brothel just to eat. Qin Sili's father-in-law asked Xu Wushao if he thought he didn't know what this place was. Qin Sili explained to his son-in-law that he had been to brothels and knew exactly what they were and why they went there. Qin Sili paused and thought that he had just said too much about his life. Xu Wushao asked Qin Sili's father-in-law, what is it really it's true what he said about his visits to the brothel? Qin Sili's father-in-law exclaimed to Xu Wushao to stop talking nonsense, because of him, their Qin family would lose all their reputation. Qin Sili thought that this little bastard Xu Wushao was trying to expose his old weaknesses. Residents began to discuss Qin Sili, saying that it turns out that the patriarch of the Qin family also trades in such intimate affairs. Someone in the crowd suggested that perhaps it was only in his youth that he worked like this. But someone reminded me that the patriarch of the Qin family, Qin Sili, used to have a nickname Tough Brother, and in the common people he was generally called Whirlwind in bed. Qin Sili, hearing the chatter, wondered how the hell the herd could possibly know such information about him. People began to whisper admiringly and tell each other to get out of the way and let the girl pass. Xu Wushao froze in surprise, thinking that this was Qin Qimo and she was his precious wife. Xu Wushao blamed himself for what was wrong with him, because his wife was beautiful, and why he chose to sleep with a prostitute instead of a beautiful wife. Qin Qingmo thought that this was going to be a good show for her, even though Xu Wushao wouldn't have to lie to her this time. After all, there was no need to do so, since Xu Wushao hadn't slept with another woman, so there was no need for him to ask her for forgiveness. Yu Feng said that he was willing to bet that they would get married this time, or else he would be willing to eat poop, since it was obvious that they would. Qin Qingmo asked Xu Wushao how he was feeling, and if he was in pain. The people around them began to discuss what was happening, saying that it was possible that Qin Qingmo was showing concern for Xu Wushao. The audience began to grimace and make fun of the young couple. Xu Wushao looked at his wife and thought that this girl was too good for him. Qin Qingmo asked her husband, Xu Wushao, why he was frozen and kept silent and didn't answer her. Xu Wushao replied to the beautiful consort that he was indeed in a bit of pain at first, but it immediately became easier when he saw his beautiful wife. Qin Qingmo replied to the delighted young man that if he was fine, then he would be fine. You should go home with her. Xu Wushao said that he understood and would immediately follow his little wife. The evil tongues of the street began to discuss the newlyweds, saying that Qin Qingmo really forgave her walking husband because he went to a brothel on their wedding night, and how can such a thing be forgiven at all? Gossips speculated that the beautiful Qin Qingmo really had such a big heart for forgiving the guy. Qin Qingmo asked Shi Guangping what he was doing here. Xu Wushao wondered who the hell Shi Guangping was. The guy who met him said that he came here to find Xu Wushao. Shi Guangping told her new husband that he was a complete jerk and that he was not ashamed to hide behind a woman's skirt. Xu Wushao replied to the cheeky Shi Guangping that he was a son of a bitch and he should look at himself first, because it was obvious to everyone in the area that he wanted his wife Qin Qingmo. Xu Wushao asked the opponent, calling him bald head, if he had anything to say to that. Shi Guangping wondered what was going on and why this little guy Xu Wushao had a very dirty tongue. Xu Wushao asked Shi Guangping why he was so silent, so full of water, so it was true what they were saying about him. Shi Guangping yelled at the guy not to try to start a stupid conversation with him, because he wouldn't be able to do it. Shi Guangping stated that a family competition would be held in a month's time and asked Xu Wushao if he dared to accept his challenge. Shi Guangping suggested to Xu Wushao that if he lost the competition, he would have to divorce Qin Qingmo. Xu Wushao replied to Shi Guangping that he promised here and now that he would never bet on his wife again, but this time he would accept his challenge for one reason only, that anyone who covets his wife must die like a disgraceful dog. Qin Qingmo told Xu Wushao that he was fine in his desire to protect her honor in this situation. Xu Wushao suggested to his beautiful wife that they should go home now. Shi Guangping cursed in annoyance and thought, why did that piece of shit Xu Wushao suddenly speak up so loudly? Shi Guangping promised himself that when he definitely killed Xu Wushao, then sooner or later he would end up in Qin Qingmo's bed and enjoy her beautiful body properly, and only this thought would add to his strength. Yu Feng, who had lost his argument, shouted that he really couldn't eat the promised poo, but those who witnessed his promises told him to shut up and quickly do what he had to do. Qin Silly asked his brother-in-law, Xu Wushao, why he allowed himself to be treated like an animal like this. Qin Silly explained to Xu Wushao that his actions would affect the reputation of the entire Qin family. Xu Wushao told his father-in-law to stop worrying so much and take everything to heart. He promised Qin Silly that he would now work hard to gain the respect of the Qin family. Xu Wushao thought that he now had special skills, and if he practiced a little, everyone's jaws would drop in surprise. Qin Silly reminded Xu Wushao that 2 months ago he said he wanted to practice martial arts, and he ordered a sword for him for 2,000 taels, and he sold it as a trinket. Qin Silly also reminded his son-in-law that a month ago he said that he wanted to enter the textbook cultivation path, and he spent 3,000 taels while he was wiping their ass in the toilet. Qin Silly asked Xu Wushao that he also intended to work hard again now. Xu Wushao tried to explain that it would be different this time, and he was determined to improve. The mother-in-law told Xu Wushao that it was all his own fault for being treated like this in the family. Mother-in-law with annoyingly, she added, why did they only give their daughter Kin Kingmo to him? Because it was a complete mistake that only added problems to their family. Kin Silly sighed in annoyance and said that he also couldn't know that this child would disappoint them so much. Kin Kingmo told her parents to stop talking about it and worry about it, since they were already married to Xu Wuzhou and the job was done. Kin Kingmo suggested to everyone present that they should get to the point. Kin Kingmo told her husband, Xu Wuzhou, that the Qin family would help him give up the bet with Shai Guangping. Kin Kingmo explained to her husband what it was. This is unacceptable, because human life is at stake, and all this is not a joke, so you need to solve the problem as quickly as possible. Xu Wuzhou told his wife, Kin Kingmo, that she really cared so much about him and tried to keep him out of trouble. Kin Kingmo didn't appreciate Xu Wuzhou's tone and said that he should solve his own problems without her help. Xu Wuzhou told his wife to stop because he didn't mean what she might think. Qin Silly told Xu Wuzhou to stop for a moment and listen to him. Xu Wuzhou replied. Qin Silly's father-in-law said that he was willing to listen to him if he had something to say. Qin Silly told Xu Wuzhou's son-in-law that from today on he would be punished and sleep in the barn until he allowed him to sleep in the house again. The guy with annoyance replied to his father-in-law that he understood everything and of course would not dare to disobey him and accept this punishment. Xu Wuzhou shouted as loudly as he could that he was already leaving the house immediately. Qin Silly spat out what it meant that the Mao and Li families had hired a swordsman and now Xu Wuzhou was unlikely to survive. Qin Silly said that in this case they needed to find a way to counter them, otherwise their Qin family might completely perish. The wife of the head of the Qin family replied that she did not know that Mao and Li had found a swordsman. Qin Silly told his wife that there was no way for him to find out anything about this right now, and he didn't know if their Qin family would even be able to survive this calamity. Xu Wuzhou wondered what kind of swords they were talking about, since his father-in-law, Qin Silly, hadn't mentioned them during their conversation, which was quite strange. Xu Wuzhou decided that now he didn't know if he could help the Qin family at all. Xu Wuzhou heard the security guard telling someone that they couldn't go inside. The next moment, the unexpected guests yelled at the security guard to get out of their way immediately. Two residents of the city began discussing what had happened, saying that surely someone dared to provoke the Qin family. One said to the other that he didn't know yet that the two Mao and Li families wanted to buy the Qin family's weapons industry, so there might be trouble. The resident replied that the Qin family's weapons industry was the foundation of their family, and they didn't intend to give it away. The all-knowing guy said that the Mao and Li families now had quite a few weapons, and even if the Qin family didn't agree to their terms, it was likely that things would end badly. The head of the Qin family, Qin Silly, loudly asked that who dared to break through the gate of his house. Mao Zhan replied to Qin Silly that they were here to talk to him about the merger of the Qin family's weapons industry and their Mao and Li families. The patriarch of the Lei family, Lei Wangfeng, said that they apologized for the inconvenience caused to the Qin family. Qin Silly asked the intruders that they really thought that if they had weapons now, they would be able to destroy his Qin family so easily. Mao Zhan laughed and said that now about 70% of the customers from all of Ilingen City had invested in their two gun shops, and asked Qin Silly wondered why he doubted their abilities. Lai Wangfeng asked Qin Silly that maybe his Qin family also had enough weapons with this arrangement of forces. Qin Silly replied to the intruders that they were completely insolent and of course his family had the necessary amount of weapons. Mao Zhan and Li Wangfeng suggested to Qin Silly that if it was as he said, then they wouldn't mind taking a look at the weapons. The uninvited guests said that this entire herd of city residents would witness so that no one would slander his Qin family's reputation. Residents of the city began to argue and say that the Qin family has deep roots and of course they have weapons, but they have never shown them. Although the entire market is now run by the Mao and Li families, and if the Qin family actually had a weapon, they would have shown it a long time ago. As such, if the Qin family didn't show their weapons, it was likely that they would never recover their reputation and would be disgraced. The head of the Qin Silly family thought that he could only show them the last batch of their forged swords right now, and he didn't know if they could match the swords of the Mao and Li families. Qin Sili told Qin San to go get the last one a batch of forged swords and demonstrated it. Qin San replied to the head of the family that those swords were no better than the previous ones, and they didn't even know if they could be compared to the swords of the Mao or families. Qin Sili barked at him that there was no need for unnecessary words, but just do what he told him to do. Xu Wuzhao, watching what was happening in the courtyard, thought that it was very noisy here, and maybe he could somehow help his father-in-law in this situation. Once inside the building, Xu Wuzhao thought that the swords must be stored here somewhere and decided that he might be able to stop these two intruders. Xu Wuzhao looked at the sword he had obtained and said that it was indeed of very good quality. Xu Wuzhao thought that this sword might be useful to his father-in-law, Qin Sili. He decided that he felt like he was born for this sword. Xu Wuzhao realized that these swords were all made of metal and he could borrow some for himself to improve his abilities with the magic bowl. Qin San shouted at Xu Wuzhao about what he was doing here and what he was doing. Qin San told the guy that the Qin family was in a critical situation and he was thinking about how to steal some money from the family. Swords for your satisfaction. Xu Wuzhao told Qin San that he had misunderstood and explained that he did not want to paint these swords at all, but only wanted to take them to his father-in-law Qin Sili. Xu Wuzhao added that he wanted to do this in order to show that the Qin family also has good weapons and rub the nose of those scoundrels from the Mao and Li families. Qin San replied that if that was the case, he would help Xu Wuzhao with it. Xu Wuzhao yelled at Qin San as to why he was still standing in his tracks and ordered him to quickly pick up the swords and carry them. Qin San replied, then he understood everything and would do it immediately. The head of the family, Qin Sili, invited the guests from the Mao and Li families to sit and test the quality of his swords by testing them in action. Mao Zhen and Lei Wangfeng thought that these swords looked very bad for quality weapons, and they wanted to see the Qin family be completely humiliated. Mao Zhen told Qin Sili that he did not believe that he really had a decent weapon to show off with pride. The head of the Qin Sili family thought that it was probably the end of his family's reputation right now, and if these swords were broken, there would be no escape from the disgrace, and these scoundrels were from the Mao families, and they will triumph over him. Xu Wuzhao thought that there was going to be a show, and everyone should get ready to see the expressions on the faces of these two idiots from the Mao and Li families. Mao Zhen and Lei Wangfeng thought that their hair was rising up when their swords shattered like glass and shouted that how is this even possible. The head of the family, Qin Sili, thought with a start that his swords were stronger than Mao and Lei's. Residents began to discuss this turn of events, saying that after all, the Qin family had been producing weapons for a long time. Although there were some doubts about the Qin family at first, they still managed to do so. It's easy to defeat Mao and Lai. People thought that the Qin family did produce good weapons, but it was just that no one knew about it since they didn't put them up for sale. Mao Zhen said that this definitely shouldn't have happened now. Lai Wangfeng replied that they really underestimated the ability of this Qin family. Family head Qin Sili reminded the uninvited guests that they were still standing in his family's courtyard. Mao Zhen and Li Wangfeng said that they seemed to have underestimated him and that it was time for them to leave, as they had stayed too long. Xu Wuzhao asked Mao Zhen and Lei Wangfeng to wait for a moment, as he had business to attend to. Xu Wuzhao reminded Mao Zhen and Lei Wangfeng that they had broken down their door and questioned the quality of the Qin family's swords. Xu Wuzhao told the guests that they really just wanted to leave without apologizing. The head of the Qin Sili family wondered if this guy Xu Wuzhao was getting him into trouble again. Xu Wuzhao told Mao Zhen and Lei Wangfeng that there was an ancient rule to kill people for debts they couldn't pay. The guy told the uninvited guests that they didn't think that anyone passing by could just come and break down the doors of his Qin family. Xu Wuzhao explained to the guests Mao Zhen and Li Wangfeng said that his Qin family would not do anything to them if they paid them compensation for the damage caused in the amount of 10,000 taels. Xu Wuzhao stated that this door was made of ancient Talmud from the Hanshan Mountains, and it was made in 1981. Its careful processing took 10 years and transportation of such expensive items should be very careful. That being said, everyone here knows that the Qin family has always been an honest merchant. Shu Wushao said that he shouldn't be blamed for calling it too much a great price, but they should know that the ancient tongue tree is worth the money. Shu Wushao reminded that the Qin family really has a rich history and works hard, so 10,000 taels for this door isn't that much at all. Shu Wushao advised the guests from the Mao and Li families that they had better pay their debt as soon as possible. Family head Qin Sili thought that he would never have believed that Shu Wushao was still very kind to his family. Mao Zhen replied to Shu Wushao that he was just a dog raised by the Qin family and that he might even know about the rules. Head of the family Qin Sili advised Mao Zhen to watch his mouth because Shu Wushao was his son-in-law and it was not worth insulting him, especially in front of him. Mao Zhen tried to argue with Qin Sili, but Li Wangfeng stopped him. He explained to Mao Zhen that the crowd was not on their side, and they had better pay 5,000 taels each now, as it would be better than losing the reputation of their two families. Mao Zhen gritted his teeth and told Li Wangfeng that he would accept the compensation. Li Wangfeng told Shu Wushao that it was compensation for the broken door, and asked if they could leave now. Shu Wushao happily thought that looks like these guys don't mind spending 10,000 taels. Shu Wushao told the intruders that he thought they both misunderstood him and explained that they each had to pay 10,000 taels. Mao Zhen and Li Wangfeng exclaimed in unison that this was simply impossible. The head of the Qin family, Sili, asked them if something was really wrong, and if they didn't want to pay for the damage caused by showing the Qin family guards led by Billy the famous gay actor. Shu Wushao looked at the big men beside his father-in-law and wondered if Qin Sili was still here. I have such a beauty, and decided that this is not the best place for him. Mao Zhen and Li Wangfeng decided that they would not survive the meeting with Billy and said that they would give the missing amount of money. Shu Wushao told them that it was a good and fair deal, and it was fine if both sides agreed to the terms. Shu Wushao suggested that the guests visit them more often because the Qin house has an old flower vase that costs only 5,000 taels. Mao Zhen and Li Wangfeng replied that it was probably a joke and they were unlikely to buy such a vase. Shu Wushao said that the dog that is next to them is quite expensive and costs 52,000 taels since it is still a living creature. But cockroaches that still have their heads are much cheaper and will only cost 100 taels each. Finally, the guy shouted to the fleeing guests that he almost forgot and they still have different clothes. Shu Wushao thought that they would see each other again, and if these guys were going to come here again, then let them know that they had a weapon that would destroy them. The townspeople immediately discussed what had happened in the Qin family's courtyard, saying that the Mao and Li families couldn't see past their noses, and even when they try to provoke the Qin family, they are ruining their own reputation and apparently don't understand it. It became clear to the residents of the city that the Mao and Li families alone would definitely not be able to stand up to the Qin family, at least not now under these conditions. Family head Qin Sili said that even if his son-in-law Shu Wushao could teach these scoundrels a lesson, then he could too. Qin Sili thought that he had almost burned himself out again. Having said too much, Shu Wushao enthusiastically decided that he had received a full 20,000 taels, and now he had no idea how powerful he could become if he bought a metal to strengthen his body and K energy with the help of a magic bowl. Family head Qin Sili told his son-in-law why he was still here, and it was time for him to go to the warehouse and finish all his business. Shu Wushao replied to his father-in-law that he agreed to go to the warehouse, but how now his money? The head of the family told the guy that he needed the money more because he still needed to repair the doors destroyed by the guests. Shu Wushao held back his emotions and thought he didn't expect that this old man, his father-in-law, would be so much more impudent than him. The head of the Qin Sili family looked at his son-in-law and decided that he was not a bad guy at all, and there was hope that when he became more responsible, he would still be able to bear the burden of their Qin family. Shu Wushao couldn't accept that he was left without such a tidy sum of money and only cried in frustration. Family head Qin Sili said that it was unbelievable that all these swords were filled with power and it was completely unclear where they came from. Qin Sili said that he personally checked these swords when he left the warehouse last time and they were without any power. Qin Sili asked Qin San if he had seen anyone touch these swords before. Qin-san replied that no one had touched any of the swords except for him and Xu Wuxiao in his presence. Family head Qin Sili said that if it was Xu Wuxiao who did it to him, it was simply impossible and unlikely that he would be able to do it with swords. Xu Wuxiao, who was in the warehouse, thought that he had finally finished everything. Xu Wuxiao wondered where he could get the metal and realized that there was a whole lot of it in the warehouse and he was actually in heaven. The guy said that he finally put everything together and it was time for a special training session. Xu Wuxiao, while making improvements with the samsara bowl, exclaimed forward and started feeding the artifact with energy. Xu Wuxiao wondered in surprise if this was the 9th meridian. Xu Wuxiao was delighted to realize that he had instantly opened the 9th meridian and reached the peak of the blood realm without much effort, and it was all thanks to the bowl that bad-smelling old man had left him. This result inspired confidence in their abilities. The owner of the Eel Imperial Hall told her visitors Shai Lei and Shai Sen to try to come to her brothel more often to have fun, and I am always glad to see them. Shi Sen told his drinking buddy that Xu Wuxiao wasn't in the brothel, and besides, no one else came, so there was no one to have fun with this time. Shai Lei replied to his friend that he would meet Xu Wuxiao tomorrow and added that he always took and brought something valuable from the Qin family's house, so they would have something to go out and drink. Shai Lei promised Shi Sen that they would return to the brothel very soon and continue the fun. The stranger's voice spoke to Shai Lei, and Senator Shai Lei asked the strange guy who he was and what he wanted from them. Shi Sen realized that it was the same Shi Guanping standing in their way and wondering what he wanted. Shi Guanping said that he needed help from them in a delicate matter for good money. Shi Guanping explained to Shai Lei and Shi Sen that there was someone to kill, and he was willing to pay them 100 taels up front right now, and he would pay the rest after they completed his task. Shi Sen and Shai Lei thought that this was a very tempting offer, and it was very convenient for them to have 100 taels in their hands right now. The guys asked their customer Shi Guanping that he wanted to kill someone with their help for such a great price. At the same time, Shai Lei and Shi Sen asked Shi Guanping how much he would be willing to pay them after completing the planned murder, as they are very interested in this and money likes to count. Shi Guanping explained to Shi Sen and Shai Lei that he needed to kill Xu Wuxiao of the Qin family at all costs, and this was their target for killing, and the reward for them would be very generous, and they would not be offended in any way. Shi Lei and Shi Sen said in unison that this is absolutely impossible for any money and under no circumstances. The boys sobered up from their indignation and explained to Xi Guanping that Xu Wuxiao was their best friend and that everyone knew this, so they couldn't agree to such a task in which they had to kill their friend. Shi Guanping asked Shai Lei and Shi Sen that they wouldn't really care about their precious friend Xu Wuxiao if they were paid very handsomely for his worthless life, and they couldn't find such easy money anywhere else. Shi Guanping reminded the boys that there is an old truth in life, that everything in this world has a price, which means everything is for sale, even the absurdity of friendship. Shi Sen and Shai Lei replied to Xi Guanping that Xu Wuxiao was their real brother, even if he wasn't a blood brother. The boys explained indignantly that their hearts and souls, life and death, had always been linked together with their friend Xu Wuxiao, so there's no way they can take the dastardly step of killing him. Shi Lei and Shi Sen asked Shi Guanping if he really thought that they could trade their friendship for some money and betray the fact that they had always been together with Xu Wuxiao in all life's situations and troubles. How dare he plan to kill Xu Wuxiao in such a despicable way anyway? Shi Guanping realized that the words of these incorruptible friends were just dust in the eyes, and they were trying to inflate the price, and everything rested on the amount of money as always and everywhere. Shi Guanping asked Shai Lei and Shi Sen if they could stop talking about the situation. Empty, and yet they will stop playing with words by saying their real decision. Shi Guanping added that he wasn't joking, and he really needed them to kill Xu Wuxiao as soon as possible. Shi Lei and Shi Sen replied to Xi Guanping that he would have to pay well for their agreement, and so they were basically willing to settle the matter with their friend Xu Wuxiao. Shi Guanping said that this was a completely different matter and they had made the right choice, but they didn't have to worry about the money as long as it was done. Shi Guanping explained to the corrupt guys that once they were done with the task, Shu Wishao would be if he is dead, then he will pay each of them 500 taels. Shi Sen and Shai Lei both said that they were ready for the task and assured Shu Wishao that there wasn't much time left in this world. Due to the fact that the bowl is filled with a liquid of pure energy, it increases the power level by 3 times. Shu Wishao said that the Samsara cup most likely actually increased one's strength by 3 times. The guy thought that if one level is counted as 3 indicators, then it means that he is now at the 9th level. Shu Wishao realized that he had now received 27 levels of improvement, and this is an incredible breakthrough of his abilities, and all thanks to the bowl of Samsara. Shu Wishao decided that he urgently needed to find a place where he could check it out for sure. The Qin family's son-in-law decided that the warehouse was too small for his plan, and if there was a 27-level explosion, then he would be immediately detected, which he didn't need at all. Therefore, it would be better to find someone for this test. Shi Lei and Shi Sen told their friend Shu Wishao that they were here to take his worthless life. In the next moment, the guys swore after failing to hit their target with the first strike. Shu Wishao was surprised that it was Shai Lei and Shi Sen who came for him and wondered what strange posture they had chosen to attack. Shu Wishao told his former friends that it didn't seem like they were here today to have a drink with him. Shi Sen and Shai Lei laughed and said that of course not, and there was someone who had paid them well for his death. Shu Wishao asked his killers that how come they wanted him dead, because he remembered that they called each other brothers forever. The guy said that it was very funny, since he decided that his drinking buddies would become him brothers. The killers explained that they were just making fools of themselves for free booze and couldn't pass up this opportunity to make money. Shu Wishao asked the guys what they should say about who was behind this, and then he might not kill them because of their friendship. Shi Sen replied that they also remembered, and he would rather kill himself so that they wouldn't get their hands dirty. Shu Wishao said, "Are they really so confident and not afraid of death?" The guy said that he probably forgot that they were Taoists. Shai Lei told the guy that he would give him a knife and wanted to see how he could kill them. Shu Wishao replied that it was better not to force him. Shai Lei said that he was ready to force him because he was completely confident in himself. Shi Sen thought that Shai Lei's key level was at the 6th level and Shu Wishao was no match for him. He smirked and told Shai Lei to stop tormenting Shu Wishao because he was their friend. Shu Wishao declared to his opponents that he was giving them one last chance. Shi Sen told Shu Wishao that how did he manage to hide his strength all this time, since Shai Lei was at the 6th level, but he didn't even have a chance to resist. Shu Wishao replied that it was their own fault and asked for it, but now he had better tell them who sent them, and maybe it was Shi Guangping or one of his other enemies. Shi Sen replied that it was really Shi Guangping who wanted him dead, and that he was the one who sent them after paying a lot of money for it. Shi Sen asked to be forgiven by us for the sake of their former friendship. Shu Wishao asked if he really wanted to be forgiven and struck out. Shu Wishao thought about it, that this power of 27 bulls is really powerful, but what should he do with these 2 scum? A female voice said that it was a very interesting picture, and who would have thought that the family's pitiful son-in-law would turn out to be a martial artist. Shu Wishao realized that it was Dai Tengshan, the special martial artist of the Qin residence. He wondered what she was doing here, this dangerous and beautiful girl. Dai Tengshan said that Master had ruined his reputation for nothing and asked Shu Wishao if he was afraid of pain. Shu Wishao cried out in pain as he thought that the medical scrolls were moving. Dai Tengshan asked Shu Wishao why he was still silent and whether she really needed to repeat her question. Shu Wishao told her that there was no need to worry about his health, and she wouldn't be able to cure her illness if she didn't know anything about it, and added that he didn't think she had much time left in this world. Dai Tengshan exclaimed in surprise that how did he know about her problem? Shu Wishao replied to Dai Tengshan that he could see her illness in her eyes. Shu Wishao thought that he couldn't believe that this old man would just leave the yin and yang scrolls in plain sight, and now he had a pretty patient and had to take the risk. Dai Tengshan was overjoyed and said that young Master Shu Wishao was very kind to her. Shu Wishao said that he was still very strong, like Naruto or Luffy somewhere around them. Dai Tengxian thought that news of her injury should not be spread, otherwise it might attract the attention of the Chu family, which is completely unacceptable. The girl decided that she would still have to kill that boy Xu Wuxiao to avoid spreading the word. Xu Wuxiao told Dai Tengxian that he wasn't sure, but it looked like the injury was in her heart. Dai Tengxian asked the guy if he could treat her injury right now and help her with such a problem. Xu Wuxiao asked the girl not to think anything like that, but he was only interested in money, not women, and he was embarrassed by her frank appearance. Dai Tengxian asked the guy how much he wanted for his help in curing the disease. Xu Wuxiao replied to the girl that he would certainly make a discount, but he wouldn't charge her less than 300,000 taels. Dai Tengxian thought that healing her illness for 300 taels was very cheap and quite a bargain price. Xu Wuxiao explained to the girl that she had to pay him 300 taels and clarified that he was not going to bargain. Dai Tengxian exclaimed that it was really only 300 taels and thought that this boy did not understand anything about money at all and was asking her for mere pennies for her abilities. Xu Wuxiao told his patient that if it was too expensive for her, then they could just wait for her to die. Dai Tengxian she told him not to worry about the money and asked Xu Wuxiao to show her the results of her treatment first. Xu Wuxiao told the girl that she was right and needed to find a more suitable place for the treatment procedure. Xu Wuxiao decided that with yin and yang skills he could cure any disease, and with the money he received, he would buy a whole bunch of steel and further increase his strength level with the samsara ball. And in general, now he can earn a lot of money very easily. Dai Tengxian told the guy that she was very grateful for his help. Each of them thought to each other that this time he should take advantage of such a moment and seduce. Xu Wuxiao suggested that his patient let Tengxian go inside the warehouse and there he could help her heal. The girl readily agreed to the offer and went ahead to the warehouse. Xu Wuxiao told Dai Tengxian that she needed to lie down and lower her dress a little to start the procedure. Watching them, 1K the dog wondered what the hell the humans were going to do inside. Dai Tengxian asked physician Xu Wuxiao exactly how she needed to lie down so that he would be comfortable treating her. The girl asked her doctor if everything was all right with him, as he looked like very excited. Xu Wuxiao told Dai Tengxian that he was fine and ready for the healing procedure. 1K the dog barked, trying to tell the guy not to move and that he would do everything with this little girl. Xu Wuxiao was surprised and said, "What can this 1K dog be doing here so late?" The girl thought that this was disgusting and that this vile dog should die immediately. Xu Wuxiao found himself envying this lustful dog that was sticking to the girl's beautiful legs like a sucker. 1K thought admiringly that the taste of this beautiful debauchee's feet was divine. Dai Tengxian yelled at the animal to go to hell, pervert dog. Xu Wuxiao said that the dog did a great thing that they didn't dare to do, and his deeds will be extolled by people all over the world, and they will all sing songs about him and wish him rest in peace. Dai Tengxian asked the guy to stop this circus and asked if he could actually cure her or not, and demanded to start the procedure immediately. Xu Wuxiao told the girl that she needed to turn her back, since the right acupuncture point was located on the back of her back. Xu Wuxiao thought that the girl's skin was so pure and delicate that it was a sin not to taste it. Dai Tengxian asked the guy to be gentle, as she is very afraid that she will be hurt during the procedure. Xu Wuxiao told the patient not to worry and that she could fully trust him in this matter. The guy said that usually this procedure is painful, but he has a full hand in such cases and everything will be fine. Dai Tengxian yelled at Xu Wuxiao that she was in great pain from the needle prick. Dai Tengxian thought that if Xu Wuxiao could really cure her now, then there would be no problem with him. But if he was only pretending to be a master of the art of healing to deceive her, then she would destroy him along with the entire Qin family. Xu Wuxiao told his patient to be patient for a while, and he was almost done with the acupuncture needle. Dai Tengxian thought that she had been pierced by 1,000 pricks in just 1 second, and how was that possible? Dai Tengxian knew that this kind of acupuncture technique was something that only the best doctors knew, and she didn't expect that this kind of acupuncture technique could be used at all. This young man can wield Xu Wuxiao. The guy told his patient that she had just a little patience left, and there was still one more place for a needle prick, and she would be cured. Dai Tengxian was numbed from the pain and sharp penetration of the needle into her head, but she had time to think that this was the most dangerous and effective method in acupuncture needle treatment. Xu Wuxiao told Dai Tengxian that that was all, and now she needed to quickly cover up her beautiful body so that no one could see them and misunderstand what they were really doing here. Dai Tengxian told her doctor that she feels like a dark one, the Kai energy has left her body, and now she feels much better, as if she has come back to life. Xu Wuxiao replied that everything went well as he expected, although it couldn't be otherwise because he is a true master in the art of using acupuncture needles, only now his shoulder is a little sore from exertion. Dai Tengxian thought that Lingen was the most beautiful city in Kyushu province, and it was home to some very amazing people like this guy Xu Wuxiao. Dai Tengxian was surprised that Xu Wuxiao had kept his strength hidden for so long and thought that he was probably just afraid that his little brother was too strong. The plan will be exposed. Xu Wuxiao told his patient Dai Tengxian that he noticed her looking at him intently. The guy asked the cured seductress if he can now be sure that he will receive from her his honestly earned fee for her treatment. Dai Tengxian told her savior that she had never thought that he was so good at medicine, so she liked him even more than before. The girl added that she is very grateful to him for the sensations of a healthy body that she can now feel after his treatment. Xu Wuxiao replied grateful. He told the girl that it was not necessary to say unnecessary words and asked her not to try to bring down the price for his magic treatment. The guy told Dai Tengxian that the price remains the same and is 300 taels, and that's the end of it. Dai Tengxian called her doctor silly and said that she could not imagine a lower price for treatment and she would pay everything. She thought that she shouldn't let Xu Wuxiao know that his price of 300 taels was too low after all. Xu Wuxiao replied to Dai Tengxian that he appreciated her self-respect, while thinking that he rather appreciated her beautiful breasts from the view which blows his mind. Xu Wuxiao told the cured girl that he was willing to offer her a small discount as a sign of a successful result. Dai Tengxian replied to the guy that she agreed and offered him to take 299 taels. Xu Wuxiao thought that he was very happy that he had received the money, even though in reality his treatment was only worth 100 taels. He decided that for this girl, such a sum was just a trifle, and for him, a huge fortune. Dai Tengxian told the guy that if he suddenly didn't want to take the money, she was willing to offer herself to him as a reward for his help. Xu Wuxiao replied to the seductress that she really wanted to grab his body and he would rather take the money since he was not ready for intimacy with her. Dai Tengxian thought that this guy was actually normal since he had given up on her and now she didn't understand anything at all. Dai Tengxian told Xu Wuxiao that it seemed that his life in the Qin family wasn't enviable at all. The girl told Xu Wuxiao that she had a lucrative business offer for him that would definitely interest him. Dai Tengxian asked the guy what he thought about it, and she wanted his answer without delay. Xu Wuxiao replied to the girl that he was interested in a lucrative financial offer, and he was ready to listen in more detail about what was being discussed, especially the amount that would be paid to him. Dai Tengxian explained to her healer that someone had been poisoned by poison and needed to help that person detoxify. 2 kopeck piece told Xu Wuxiao that he could get as much as 100 taels for this help. Xu Wuxiao replied to the beautiful patient that she probably wants to offend him with such a proposal and it does not quite suit him. The guy explained to Dai Tengxian that one consultation on a client's existing problem would cost 500 taels. The girl told Xu Wuxiao that his price was too high and she was only willing to offer him 300 taels for his work and asked if he agreed or not, as she would not add any more money. Xu Wuxiao told Dai Tengxian that it should be so, and he agreed to the suggestion, adding at the same time what they are waiting for, and it's time to go to the patient as soon as possible. Xu Wuxiao thought that he was being tricksy and deliberately overcharged for his work, suggesting that Dai Tengxian would bargain with him. Xu Wuxiao was overjoyed, thinking that this time he would get a whole lot of money for his efforts. Dai Tengxian wondered if she had overestimated Xu Wuxiao after all, and if he really was a stupid person to agree to work for such ridiculous money. Dai Tengxian asked her healer that didn't he tell her that all the acupuncture points on her body were blocked and she wouldn't be hurt, so why was the last needle prick so painful? Xu Wuxiao replied to his beautiful patient that the fact was that her butt was quite tempting, and he had allowed himself a little distraction during the acupuncture process. Dai Tenshin yelled at the guy and wished him dead for being so impudent. Dai Tenshin asked the guy to wait outside for her while she walked forward. Xu Wuxiao thought that this girl was quite a mysterious person. Dai Tenshin asked Yu Feng how he was doing. Yu Feng anxiously asked the girl what she wanted to do with him and asked her to don't get too close, or he'll scream at the top of his lungs. Dai Tenshin asked the shackled boy to be an obedient boy and calm down, and promised that she would not harm him in any way. The girl explained to Yu Feng that she was injured and worried that he would tell someone about it, so she had to tie him up, but now everything is fine and she is ready to let him go. Dai Tenshin told the guy that she would help him get rid of the poison that was in his body. Yu Feng wondered why this little witch had become so kind to him. Dai Tenshin asked the guy that maybe something was wrong, and maybe he changed his mind about leaving. Yu Feng told the girl that he didn't want her to torture him again and asked her to just tell him what she really wanted. The guy explained that he was even scarier when she was acting so cute. Dai Tenshin told Yu Feng that he was free to leave from now on, as she wouldn't keep him locked up anymore. Yu Feng asked the beautiful witch if she was really letting him go and wouldn't torture him in this barn anymore. Dai Tenshin explained to Yu Feng that he really could go wherever he wanted right now, but only on one condition: he had to promise her that he would do something for her later when she wanted it. Dai Tenshin told Yu Feng that she would help him get rid of the poison and it would ease his condition. Yu Feng asked his captor if it was really her who decided to help him with this problem. Yu Feng explained that this poison is not simple, but it is handmade by his father, and he has already seen all the famous doctors, but none of them were able to help him get rid of the poison, so it is almost an impossible task. Dai Tenshin replied that she was confident that the poison could be removed and that she would definitely solve the problem. Dai Tenshin thought that Xu Wuxiao had done a great job of healing her wounds and that it would certainly be much more difficult to deal with this poison, but she had confidence in the young healer and he would definitely be able to do it. Yu Feng told Dai Tenshin that he would be very grateful to her for such help. After all, she saves him like a magic wand. The guy told the young witch that she was his gift of fate, and he would never forget her kindness and would forever praise her in his words, as her kindness has no boundaries like a wide, stormy river. Dai Tenshin thought irritably, why is this young guy Yu Feng constantly falling at her feet like she's some kind of goddess? Yu Feng went on to say that Dai Tenshin was very kind and supportive, like her own mother, and maybe even more so. Dai Tenshin caught herself thinking that this guy was talking a lot, and she had already done it get so tired of it that you just want to kill it. Xu Wuxiao told Dai Tenshin that she was finally back because he was already tired of waiting for her and asked who she had brought with her. Dai Tenshin told the young healer that he needed to treat this Yu Feng guy she had brought urgently. Xu Wuxiao replied that he could easily deal with it and asked if the problem was that her friend had AIDS. Yu Feng replied to Xu Wuxiao that it wasn't like that at all, and even though his relatives were really sick with AIDS, he didn't have it himself, and that was absolutely certain. Xu Wuxiao replied to Yu Feng that he understood and agreed that AIDS had nothing to do with it, thinking that the client was always right. Yu Feng explained that it was all because of his Dachibag father who created the illusion that women would avoid him. And so he hadn't been in the woman's company for 3 whole days. Xu Wuxiao wondered what was wrong with this guy. After all, he hadn't been with a woman for only 3 days and was acting like it had been forever. Xu Wuxiao decided that he needed to stay calm in this situation, and when he was done, he would also get something. Xu Wuxiao told Yu Feng that it is worth worrying about, and he will cure it with a needle, and added that for this you need to undress. Yu Feng asked if his illness could be cured, to which Xu Wuxiao replied that he could be trusted. Yu Feng invited the healer to come closer to him and assured him that he wasn't contagious at all. Xu Wuxiao replied that he undressed very quickly as if for a sick person. Yu Feng clarified that he usually undresses even faster and thanked Xu Wuxiao for the compliment. Dai Tenshin thought that this boy Yu Feng didn't have a single bit of conscience and still had to be castrated. After finishing his manipulations, Xu Wuxiao said that everything was now ready. Yu Feng said that he was feeling really good right now. Xu Wuxiao told Dai Tenshin that he wanted 300 taels and not a coin less. The girl replied that she was ready to pay this amount. Xu Wizhao thought that he had received a lot more money than he expected, and now with this amount, he would be able to level up his skills before the competition started and be ready to win. Yu Feng was surprised that this young healer had received such a small sum for his treatment. Yu Feng said that it was really only 300 taels, since it was all the money he had. He asked Dai Tangshan why she called out that rascal Xu Wuzhao, and did he really need to fulfill his promise now for these measly pennies that she had spent on treating him? Dai Tangshan asked Yu Feng what was so special about it and whether he really regretted her action. Yu Feng realized his mistake and said that it was a fair deal and he had nothing to regret at all. Xu Wuzhao said that since he was done with his work, it was high time for him to go about his business. Xu Wuzhao thought that since he had received the money, he should get away from these strange people as soon as possible. Yu Feng thought that this healer Xu Wuzhao was an amazing person, and he liked it very much. I would like to be friends with it in order to earn a lot of money with it. Dai Tangshan told Yu Feng not to even think about it since she herself had her eye on Xu Wuzhao. Over dinner, Dai Tangshan told Xu Wuzhao that the Lingen competition would start soon and when he was going to go there. Xu Wuzhao replied to the girl that if he went there now, it would be too easy. He thought that having arrived in the city too early, the locals would try to kill him quickly because of his reputation. Xu Wuzhao and Yu Feng exclaimed that they needed to open up at the last moment and should praise them for their generosity. The girl thought that they only drank wine and immediately began to pretend to be real men. Shi Pingcheng, while beating up his opponent, Huang Ting taunted and urged him to stay in the ring better. Shi Pingcheng stated if there is someone who can challenge his family and added that his Te family is indisputably the strongest and best. Qin Sili thought that it was a complete failure and 5 consecutive games were lost to the Qi family. Qin Sili understood that according to the rules of big family games, the loser would give up a part of the business, and if they lost, his family would be flown out of the western city. Qin Qingmo told her father that maybe she should go and try to fight in the ring. Qin Sili told his daughter that her ki power alone would not be enough, and that she should also rely on her combat skills, and even more so, she was not as well prepared as the assassins. After the Qi family fighters won all 5 games in a row, Shai Guangping, with a haughty expression, turned to Qin Shibo and said that last year, he and Wu Xiao had promised that if his son-in-law didn't take first place, he would pay him with all the Xu family's possessions. And now, as he sees it, Wu Xiao didn't even show up for the competition. He feels that Qin Shibo should hand over the Xu family's property to him immediately. Qin Shibo wiped the sweat on his forehead and thought that that idiot Xu Wuxiao had gotten him into trouble again. Suddenly, everyone was surprised to see the figure of Qin family's son-in-law Xu Wuxiao standing near the arena. He calmly turned to Kai Guangping and told him not to rush to take the property he had put on the line, or maybe he was in a hurry to get money to treat his impotence. Guangping furiously shouted at him as he dared to come here. It looks like he's tired of living. To which the young man replied that he not only decided to come, but also prepared a good gift for him. Life and death are very unpredictable. When his coffin is lifted, the Qin family's funeral team will happily guide him on his final journey to eternal life. Qin Qingmo, who was present, wondered where on earth Wu Xiao had picked up such a thing. It looks pretty funny. The audience around the arena was very happy with the show that was starting. Great job. Shi Guangping will be furious. It was time for him to stop Wu Xiao's attacks on him. Xu Wuxiao's father-in-law, Qin Shibo, then began to curse at him. What was he doing here? Didn't he tell him to lock himself in and stay in his room? Wu Xiao replied that he came here with the hope of helping the Qin family. The father-in-law became even angrier and asked the youth, knowing that the Tsai family wanted him dead, did he still come here? After realizing that Qin Shibo was still worried about him, Wu Xiao told him not to worry. He had prepared enough to meet the Qi assassin family. He is confident that he will win and become a famous fighter in Lingen City. Wu Xiao, confident in his skills, knew that the task before him was not an easy one, but his determination and training gave him strength. He was confident that he would always find the enemy's weak points and use his best techniques in battle. Wanping, hearing this, shouted at him that he, Xu Wuxiao, was already a corpse. He advised him to prepare well for death. The young master screamed so much that his family was concerned about his mental state. Qin Qingmo shook her head in annoyance and asked Wu Xiao, why is he always so arrogant? Meanwhile, Qin Shing's enterprising son-in-law walked to the middle of the arena and began calling out those who didn't like him to fight him. He provided such an excellent opportunity for anyone who was not afraid to enter the arena and measure their strength and martial arts skills with him. He also asked me to do it faster because he wants to go home and get some sleep. Not only his wife Qimo, but also the entire audience of the competition was sure that the young master was arrogant after these words. How dare this puppy come out here? Isn't he afraid of being beaten to death? This guy is blindly confident in his victory. Besides, he's also a Taoist. Does he really think that he is the only Taoist here? He thinks he's too cool. He Wuzhao, standing in the central arena, felt the weight of hatred and rejection that was in the air. He took a deep breath, letting waves of sadness roll through his soul. Glancing at the crowd gathered in the stands, he took the floor decisively. He took a few steps forward, approaching the ring fence, and fixed his gaze on the faces of the audience, saying that if their feelings are so strong that they are ready to express them through hatred and condemnation, then why not try to solve it all in a different way? He turned to the crowd in the stands and asked them if they hated him so much, so why not just waste his time by going into the ring together against him? Even Chai Pingqing, looking at the bunch of people who only know how to fool around all day, thought that they didn't have an ounce of compassion. This is unfortunate. The old master whispered in his ear to go and destroy this upstart. He had a real chance to kill Wu Xiao. Pingqing replied that he understood everything and was ready to fight. He boldly walked into the middle of the arena when Wu Xiao suddenly asked him to stop. Pingqing took it as cowardice and asked the young man, does he still want to fight or is he already scared? However, Wu Xiao made a suggestion to him. If he lost, he would lose all of the Xu family's assets. But if Xu Wuzhao won, then Shi Pingqing would have to do something. Wu Xiao noted that for now, he won't say what exactly the loser will have to do. Pingqing joked angrily. Did he think he could resist even 10 one-armed men? The young man replied that it didn't matter if he had a chance or not. After all, it's all about justice. Are they trying to bully him with their Shai family's strength? Hearing this, Shi Guanping offered him 1,000 taels for the victory. It will be a prize for his fearlessness. Pingqing emphasized his master's generosity and asked Xu Wuzhou for his opinion. He replied that it was good, but let him not regret it later. The abacus clicked in his head. Funny, another 1,000 tael freebie. The audience wailed angrily. Just 1,000 taels make this guy so happy. Looks like he really deserves his reputation as a scum. Is it really only worth 1,000 shadows? This greedy fellow deserves such a bounty on his head. Finally, Shi Pingqing went on the attack and warned his opponent not to shit himself out of fear. Xu Wuchao was also prepared for the fight. He advised his opponent to stop talking nonsense. All of this is absolutely unimportant. At this time, on the podium, Shai Guanping reminded Qin Shubo that under the competition conditions, seniors should not interfere in the fight of juniors. The audience was on the side of the Shi family representative. They believed that Shibo's son-in-law was extremely scared and couldn't even move. They admired Pingqing's incredible strength and skills. Only Wu Xiao's wife, Qin Qingmo, was genuinely worried about her husband, wishing him victory and believing in her. Meanwhile, Xu Wuxiao, after observing his opponent's every move, began to notice the subtleties in his attacks. All these weeks of training and analyzing combat styles have not been in vain. He has improved his reaction time and sense of timing, allowing him to catch moments when the opponent is in an awkward position. And so, in the arena, when Chai Pingqing once again delivered a crushing blow, Xu Wuxiao quickly leaned forward, turning his strength into the source of his energy. With one hand, he stopped the blow at the last moment. Pingqing felt his powerful punch turn into a static resistance, and his face expressed disbelief and surprise. Xu Wuxiao stared into his opponent's eyes, feeling his opponent's astonishment and realizing that strength didn't always depend on muscle. His eyes sparkled with determination and confidence. At the same time, the enterprising son-in-law of the Qin family decided that this fight needed a bit of drama if he wanted to get more money. Meanwhile, the superiority of the Qin family's representative began to be noticed in the stands. Qin Yun, who was in the stands, was surprised to think that the strength that Wu Xiao showed was one of the most impressive for the first stage. When had he ever leveled up like this? Xu Wuxiao made a remark towards Kai Guangping that it looked like his subordinate was becoming useless, which infuriated him completely, and he shouted at Pingqing that he simply had to win. Shi Pingqing was furious himself, infuriated that this youngster was completely underestimating him. With all his remaining strength, he charged at Wuxiao. Half an hour later, it became clear to even the most loyal fans of the Xi family that Xu Wuxiao was fighting on equal terms with Shi Pingqing. They were forced to admit that he was indeed very strong for his age. They remembered with annoyance that they had teased him for his weakness and hoped that he would not take revenge on them for it now. At this time in the arena, the young son-in-law of the Qin family thought that it was time to let his opponent get closer to end all this. The fight had already dragged on. The unsuspecting Shi Pingqing charged headlong into another attack. This was just a trap cleverly set up by Xu Wuxiao. Pingqing was hit by a powerful blow that almost threw him from the arena down on the audience. He was incredibly lucky because he kept his feet on the very edge. Some overly optimistic fans of the Qi family fighters claimed that these opponents were equal in strength. It was just that Xu Wuxiao was lucky in this episode. This is not an indicator of strength at all. However, to the experienced Shi Guangping, everything was already clear. He told his student that he was a complete idiot. Xu Wuxiao thanked him for giving him 1,000 taels, which were immediately handed to him. Guangping asked him, did he hide his strength for so long and skillfully just to fight weak opponents? Wu Xiao, who was counting the money in concentration, thought with joy that Shi Guangping didn't know that he was just pretending to be Shi Pingqing's equal in strength so that he would lose to him later. Shi Guangping called him an impudent bastard and promised to make sure he died in this ring. He offered the young man another deal. If he won another match, he would give the Chai family's Xinqiang market to his family and add 2 silver taels on top. If he loses, he will not have to pay anything. Then he asked for Wu Xiao's opinion on the matter. Wu Xiao read everything from his master's facial expressions, and Shi Guangping gloatingly thought that this young master was quite a spender. While the young man was thinking about the proposal, his father-in-law shouted at him not to listen to Guangping but to go home. However, Shi Guangping mockingly said to Wu Xiao, let him hide under his wife's skirt and be a pitiful worm for the rest of his life. Doesn't he want to fight against him? He called him a coward. The young man then replied that since he wanted to provoke him into a fight with him, fine, so be it. He agreed to all the conditions that he had just announced. As soon as the first show ended, the audience felt the approach of another, no less impressive one. Qin Qingmo worriedly warned Wu Xiao to be careful when facing the new Guangping fighter because he was using a special technique. Wu Xiao addressed all the viewers. He said they should be honest. They all looked down on him just because he is a son-in-law. Today, he intends to tell them the truth. Xu Wuxiao is a proud and unyielding person who is not offended by other people's words. He never thought that he would kill 2 birds with 1 stone, impress his wife and make money. What is it called? The main character. Shi Guangping, meanwhile, suggested that Chang Shan, one of the strongest masters of the Qi family, go up to the arena and teach this braggart a lesson. He advised him to destroy the brat with his best move. The big man replied that the master should not worry, he would not make any more mistakes that his predecessor had made. Some tried to shame Shi Guangping, accusing him of having no conscience at all, because Qi Shang is at the 3rd level of Huqin, and he clearly surpasses the level that Xu Wuxiao has. Why doesn't he get in the ring on his own? Guangping smugly replied that there was a rule in family competitions, the champion couldn't enter at the beginning. After all, Brother Xu had endured all this humiliation for so long. It would be boring to just beat him up. Once he defeated Qi Shang, he would immediately become famous. He, on the contrary, helps Xu. Isn't that right, Brother Xu? Wu Xiao seriously told him that he was about to receive his thanks. Shi Shan, who had already entered the ring, shouted loudly at him, "Can this arrogant brat hold him for a fool?" He rushed forward and delivered several powerful punches, which delighted all the spectators. Everyone was sure that the young man would not be able to withstand Hu Qin's third-level strike. This time Wu Xiao would definitely come to an end. It looks like Wu Xiao is out of luck this time. He definitely won't survive this round. Once again, the sympathies of the people watching the duel had gone over to the Chai family side. And they shouted, meaning Wu Xiao, that he was a weakling, so a weakling will die. Now they cannot be afraid of his revenge. What an idiot! He agreed to this fight for the sake of 1,000 taels. We can assume that he is already a corpse. Those onlookers who had bet their money on Qi Shang's victory said that if this kid had won the round, they had no idea how much money they would have lost. But today, they are definitely lucky. Frere's greed has ruined him. He went up against a third-level Hao Qian power holder, and now he won't get a penny and will surely die in this ring. At this time in the arena, after evaluating the opponent's strength, Wu Xiu said that it was rather weak. All this time, he was only pretending to make Qi Shang overestimate his strength. Then he landed a serious blow to Shang's head, which nearly knocked him out. All the spectators in the stands gasped. They couldn't believe what had happened in the arena. Qi Shang panted as he told the youth that he had reacted well in a difficult situation and had attacked him faster than Shang had him. It looks like he's just mocking him. But he is happy early. He will now show him where the crayfish spend the winter. After a second, Wu Xiao's father-in-law Qin Shibo exclaimed in disbelief, "What the hell? He just died." Stopping at the edge of the arena, Xu Wuxiao proudly asked, "Who else wants to go up against him in a fair fight?" A startled whisper went up from the crowd of spectators. To put down a third-level Hao Qian fighter in one blow is simply unbelievable. Many people suspected that Wu Xiao's cultivation was no lower than the 5th level of Hu Tian. This kid has been hiding his true power for so long, it's even frightening. The Tsai family members decided not to provoke the fighter anymore, so that he wouldn't cause them any problems in the future, because Kaiju Wu Xiao could undoubtedly reach unprecedented heights. It will be necessary, on the contrary, to strengthen relations with him. Shi Guanping thought with fear that brother Qi Shang was sent to the forefathers with just one blow, and he was the strongest fighter among the elites of his family. What kind of power had that little brat Xu Wuxiao been hiding all this time? At this time, the young man walked up to Guanping and told him, holding his chin, what he liked, what he was thinking about now. Shi Guanping was thinking about him now. Guanping ordered him to get his dirty hands off him, and Wuxiao reminded him of his debt of 1,000 taels. The gentleman immediately handed over the money and said that this money was not a pity for him, because this amount would not even be enough for a hair transplant. After recalculating the money, Wu Xiao reminded Guanping that he still had to fulfill his promise and thank him for his actions. Then the head of the Qi family suddenly had an idea, and he said that he only now understood why Wu Xiao hid his power from everyone. He just wants to use a bride with a large dowry to get more money. How low it is! He told the youth not to get in his way again. His strength is still not enough to fight against Shi Guanping. If that happened, he would die in agony at his hands. He's already bought a cage for his wife. He advised him not to do anything with it, leaving it for him. Xu Wuxiao told him that when he was ready, let him come to him to show off his skills. Shi Guanping clenched his fists until they cracked, but refrained from attacking because Qin Sili was present. He just hissed after the departing youth that he would destroy him one day anyway. Qin Yan asked Qin Qingmo for her opinion. Did she think Xu Wuxiao was the best fighter among the younger generation in Linen? She replied that in the city, apart from the top 10 natural-born masters like her father, only about 10 people can reach level 5 or more. Yun said he was a dead man then. He'd hit him a few days ago, and obviously he hadn't forgotten it yet. The nurse replied that now he would have to ask her for help. At this time, Wu Xiao's voice came from behind him. Qin Yan anxiously asked his sister for help, thinking that Wu Xiao wanted to finish him off. His brother-in-law was surprised by his behavior and told him that he only wanted to give him advice on his fighting style. He calmed Qin Yan down and suggested that he take a little walk and have some fun. Qin Yan, realizing that the punishment for his offense was being lifted, hurried to express his congratulations to Xu Wuxiao for winning the family tournament. He assured him that he had absolutely no doubts about his victory. He was immediately congratulated by his father-in-law, who appeared from nowhere, greatly frightening his son-in-law. Wu Xiao muttered that this wasn't a greeting, but a murder of some sort. Qin Sili couldn't hear what he was mumbling and expressed a wish to congratulate him once more. Wu Xiao assured him that everything was fine and said that he was not the best son-in-law before, but now he wants to improve and asks his father-in-law to give him a chance. He just wants to be a good person. King Sili said that then he needed to take care of the Chai family's Shangqing market, which he had just won in the tournament. The son-in-law made a request to the father-in-law. He said that he almost destroyed his Xu family, but now he would like to fix everything. He requested that the Xu family's property of 10,000 taels of silver be returned to him. The father-in-law, referring to Xu Wuxiao, said that if anything he guessed that Wuxiao would ruin the Xu family's business, so he had to sell all their property and keep these 10,000 taels for him. Now that he was an adult, it was time to give this money to him. It was a difficult choice, but it was made for the sake of his family's future. Wu Xiao listened carefully, his inner world intertwined with emotions and thoughts. He felt the recognition in his father-in-law's words and realized how much effort had been put into securing the future of his family. The father-in-law continued that now that he had grown up and become a strong young man, it was time to pass on this family capital to him. This money can become the basis for his path to success and independence. But he must remember that power is not only in money. It is in his determination, in the wisdom he has acquired, and in the ability to act with honor and dignity. Xu Wuxiao felt warm in his heart as he listened to his father-in-law's words. This money became a symbol not only of material support, but also of the trust that was given to him. He nodded, showing his willingness to take on this responsibility. He sincerely thanked Qin Sili for his faith in him and promised that he would be honest and resolute in his actions to make their family name a pride in Lingen City. My father-in-law smiled. He said with pride and respect that Xu Wuxiao's words made him happy. The father-in-law wished the young man good luck and that this money would help him in the future path of improvement. He assured his son-in-law that their family was always there to support him in his time of need. Xu Wuxiao's joy was boundless, and he warmly thanked King Sili for this unimaginable gift. He thought about how with these 10,000, he already had 12,000 taels accumulated, which would allow him to rise several levels in cultivation. Lin Qingxi suddenly walked up to them and asked if he could talk to Xu Wuxiao in private. Her father-in-law told her to apologize properly to the girl, and Qin Qingmo thought that her husband would have to overcome himself. In a secluded spot at the back of the garden, Qingxi ran her hand over her chest and asked the youth if he liked it. He can touch it. Wu Xiao told her that her veins were throbbing so much that he didn't think it was arousal, but varicose veins. He would help her with it as soon as he could. He warned her that it was better not to delay the treatment, otherwise it would get worse later. Qin Wu Xiao advised her to stop her magic tricks. He remembers exactly what happened that night. She dragged him to her room. The girl asked him who would believe him. All anyone remembers is that he had fun with her. The youth asked Lin Qingxi why was she provoking him. Qingxi replied that it seemed like the time had come to tell him everything. Wu Xiao said that he was disgusted with her and didn't want to see her. Lin Qingxi resentfully asked Wu Xiao, is she really disgusting to him? She threatened to scream at him and he would regret it. The young man asked if that was all she could do. The girl proudly replied that, in fact, she has the 3rd level of Haochen, and if he does not apologize to her right now, then she will attack him. Wu Xiao calmly replied he had just killed Xi Shan, and his cultivation level was similar to hers. Then he asked the girl if this information was enough for her to discourage her from fighting him. The girl was surprised to think, is this really the same Xu Wuxiao that she knew earlier? The young man gave her a final warning not to get in his way. Otherwise, he can't guarantee that he won't do anything to her afterwards, and her thighs and breasts are still very good. As a token of their friendship, he would spare her this time. But next time, let her not expect such a gift from her. It all depends on her. With that, he left her alone under the tree. Left alone, Lin Qingxi thought that she wouldn't stop there and just give up. She's obsessed with this man. Wu Xiao met Yu Feng, who announced to him that he had heard about his victory in the Qi family tournament today. He warmly congratulated the youth, and Wu Xiao asked what he was doing here. Feng replied that, of course, he had come to celebrate the victory with him, brother Xu. He took him by the shoulders and led him in an unknown direction, promising him that he would not regret the place they went to. Of course, Yu Feng took him to a brothel, where he treated him to numerous pleasant dishes. The two girls pestered him endlessly during lunch and promised to give him new and lasting impressions. However, Wu Xiao thought that, unfortunately, the local girls didn't look like the ones in the house at all. All of them are not very attractive here. He only decided to enjoy the delicious food that Yu Feng had kindly paid for. In the midst of the meal, he was horrified to see a very angry father-in-law enter the restaurant. Wu Xiao turned to him and asked if he told him that he came here for the chicken thighs, would he believe him? Yu Feng also looked scared, because Wu Xiao has a very stern father-in-law. Meanwhile, Qin Sili irritably told his son-in-law that he had hoped that Wu Xiao had changed. He wanted to give him those 10,000 taels, but that's out of the question now. He ordered him to go back so that he could lock him in the barn again. While mentally cursing Yu Feng, Wu Xiao thought about how he now owed him 12,000 taels. As he sat alone in the locked warehouse, his thoughts swirled around the fact that no one should lay a finger on his wife, but if he did something wrong, he was immediately locked up. Because of this, he may not be there for his wife at the right moment and will not be able to help her. Then he told himself to forget about it and focus on increasing his own strength. After all, after winning 2 matches, he still had the strength to break through to the peak of Hutian. He decided not to waste any time. Then his thoughts drifted back to the brothel where his father-in-law had caught him. Wu Xiao sincerely regretted that he didn't have enough time to eat at that place. Unexpectedly, his wife Qin Qingmo appeared in the warehouse and brought him the food that she had prepared for him. She put a dish in front of him and said that she didn't know if he would like it or not. Wu Xiao was grateful to his wife for making him something to eat. It must be so delicious. He devoured the dish with gusto, exclaiming that it was delicious, so that he would always live like this. His grateful gaze went to his wife, who was standing in front of him with a smile. The aroma of the freshly prepared dish had already filled the air of the warehouse, and it only served to increase Wu Xiao's already ferocious appetite. His wife smiled back at him, her eyes sparkling with joy. She was glad that he liked her cooking. She could see that he was genuinely enjoying his meal. Wu Xiao guessed that Mo probably knew some magic formula to make each dish perfect. My wife laughed, blushing a little at the compliment, and said that she didn't know anything about the magic formula, but she tried to cook with love. Then they continued their conversation, smiling at each other and sharing moments from the day before. Wu Xiao simply enjoyed the food and the presence of his wife. At that moment, he felt genuinely happy and grateful to have such an important person in his life. Qin Mo then suggested that he go to a literary meeting with the Shi family tomorrow and keep her company. Wu Xiao was very happy with Qin Mo's suggestion. He said that his wife's hopes are what her husband should always strive for. He promised to become stronger and protect her honor from anyone who dared to encroach on her. To which the girl replied that it would be just a literary meeting and advised him not to take everything so seriously. Then she said goodbye and left. Outside, she told herself, thinking of her husband, that he was so easy to please, that it was a pity that he couldn't get along with her family. Meanwhile, in the empty warehouse, Wu Xiao was thinking that if his wife invited him to meet her friends, did that mean that she was starting to accept him? So he just had to behave tomorrow. At the same time, Shi Guangping was running amok in his house, smashing dishes and cursing Wu Xiao. Damn kid, how did he manage to level up his power like that? He needs to be killed, and as soon as possible. A servant brought him his hat and tried to calm him down. Guanping somehow came to his senses and said that tomorrow the Shi family is hosting a literary meeting. Qin Mo is taking Wu Xiao with him. He told her to tell Lin Qingxi to take Qin Mo far away. Wu Xiao would definitely start chasing her and let the two elders intercept Wu Xiao halfway. The servant asked Mr. Ping when Wu Xiao became useless if it would be a blow to the boy. Shi Guanping shouted, how dare he doubt him? The terrified servant fell to his knees and told the master that he should think that all his orders had already been obeyed. Wu Xiao ran swiftly down the street, dodging obstacles and passers-by. He wondered why his wife hadn't asked him to come first. He's dealt with Shai Lei and Shi Sen, and he still doesn't know if Shi Guoping said anything to the Shi family about it. If the Shi family found out that his wife was in danger, he should meet her soon. Then he stopped abruptly in the middle of the street and thought something was wrong. Why is this street so deserted? His wife had clearly said yesterday that she would take him with her, so why was he alone now? Could this be some kind of conspiracy? Xu Wushao ran through the streets with the speed and agility typical of an experienced fighter. His entire course of action indicated his intention to get to the Shi family's home as quickly as possible, where the city's grand literary club event was being planned. Suddenly, his trained eye caught something strange on the sidewalk, a long and distorted shadow. Wu Xiao's heart skipped a beat, and he instantly knew that this might be an ambush. Once at a safe distance, he noticed the silhouette cast by the shadow. He realized that this was a dangerous opponent waiting for him. Xu Wushao assumed a posture of alert, tensing his muscles and waiting for the next move from the enemy lurking in ambush. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was a man dressed in dark robes. He smiled slyly, as if he knew that Xu Wushao understood his intentions. He was sorry that he had guessed the ambush so late. An incredible force descended on him, which he barely dodged. The cobblestones crumbled to dust. Only Master Hao Chen should have had such power. Shi Guangkun and Shi Guangmeng, the two elders of the Qi family, appeared in front of him with drawn weapons in their hands. Xu Wushao, seeing the two Qi family fighters in front of him, thought of Shi Guangping's sincere concern for him. After all, he had even sent two Huqin masters to train him well. These two elders would be real sparring partners for him. The brothers, seeing that Xu Wushao had recognized them as belonging to the Qi family, felt surprised and somewhat uneasy. After all, this meant that the young man had a well-developed information base, and perhaps they were not the only ones following the course of events. Shi Guangkun said that they were here to give him a lesson. They will not kill him immediately, although no one knows what may happen in the course of the struggle. Xu Wushao understood that no matter what purpose these brothers had, his job was to protect himself and reveal their intentions. Xu Wushao tilted his head slightly, adopting a fighting stance. He was prepared for battle, but he also understood that the strength of his opponents contained a masterful training. The Kai brothers clearly wanted to kill him, expose his weaknesses and strengths. The battle began. Wu Xiao and the Tsai brothers made their first moves, and it soon became clear that the masters had discovered much more about him than they had expected. His attacks were precise and powerful, his evasions and defenses lightning fast. He read their movements, predicted their strikes, as if he knew their intentions beforehand. With every passing moment, it was becoming apparent that Xu Wushao was not just a trained fighter, but also a master of his craft. Its hidden power began to reveal itself, and the Tsai brothers realized that they were facing a dangerous opponent. It wasn't just physical strength that burned in the battle, but also willpower, experience, and strategic thinking. Every move was like a dance of death, and in this dance, Xu Wushao was increasingly proving his unrivaled strength and skill. The masters understood the hidden power in this nondescript-looking guy. The young man corrected them and said that, to be precise, it was not power, but strength. But they still want to kill him, don't they? He explained to them that it contained the power of 30 bulls, so no Haochen master could fight it. Shi Guangping knows how to intrigue. He sent you here, obviously, so that a young fighter like him could gain experience faster. Shi Guangkun held up his sword, called him an upstart, and volunteered to show off his fighting skills, which would really give him some real experience. Wu Xiao noticed the strange power of this master. Every time the darkness fills his blade, he feels the threat grow stronger and stronger. What is this combat technique? Guangkun took the sword in both hands and told the youth that it was time for him to go to hell. Wu Xiao knew it was bad. The master combined 9 first-level combat techniques and was able to increase his strength by 9 times. Shi Guangkun cast the blood-slash battle spell. However, Xu Wushao wasn't going to give up just like that. Guangkun was surprised at the strength of his opponent. Is he really that strong? But it's a waste of time for him to rely on strength alone when fighting against a top-notch martial artist. Sitting on the roof of the building, Lin Qingxi thought that this was definitely a sword of determination. She asked Yu Feng if he had noticed that this sword was charged with determination earlier. The young man replied that if she didn't feel it, he certainly wouldn't have noticed it. Meanwhile, Xu Wushao was impressed by the first-rate master Shi Guangkun's abilities. Guan Meng asked his brother if he was all right after being struck by the Sword of Determination. Kun replied that it was fine, but something was bothering him. How did this kid manage to dodge his insidious strike? Kun turned to Myung, his eyes filled with determination and a thirst for victory. He told his brother that they needed to join forces. Together, they would be able to attack Wuzdao and finally deal with it. There is no time to be cautious, otherwise it may become even more dangerous. Myung, looking into Kun's eyes, felt tense. He knew that the stakes were high and that success depended not only on their strength and skill, but also on their strategy. Myung agreed with Guan Kun. They need to act quickly and decisively and not forget that it is not as simple as it may seem. He has incredible strength and skills. They need to be careful and keep it under constant control. They decided to limit Shi Wushao's maneuverability. If they can get it to work in a limited environment, it might give them an advantage. Both masters gathered their resolve and formed a plan of action. Their goal was the same: to kill Xu Wushao. After understanding the intentions of the Qi family elders, Xu Wushao decided to fight them to the death. He used all his abilities, but soon he felt that the strength of the two masters was so great that he might very well die here. He even mentally bid farewell to his wife, Qin Mo, and hoped that he would be a good husband to her in the next life. Xu Wushao found himself in a difficult situation, and he realized that if he didn't do something immediately, he wouldn't be able to resist the onslaught of his brothers and would definitely die. At that moment, when the youth thought about how he got into the samsara bowl, an image of that old man appeared in his mind. He asked him how he could be surprised if he had the cup of reincarnation and the sword of nirvana. Then he asked, has the disciple forgotten his old teacher? Wushao asked him if he wasn't dead, and since when is he listed as the old man's disciple? Was he a living corpse? The old man seemed annoyed. He told him that his soul was about to disappear. Let him stop talking nonsense and listen to him carefully. Practice is the most important thing. Martial arts will help him improve his strength. These two from the Qi family don't have access to her at all, and he's afraid of them. Wushao asked the old man not to talk to him like he was a little boy, but just to tell him what to do with them. The old man replied that he had already taught him how to wield the Nirvana sword. He could kill people with this one strike. Apparently, he was wasting his time training it. He told him that this sword was in his head. He only needed to strain his brains. The old man carefully looked at Xu Wushao, his gaze filled with a mixture of experience and wisdom. He told the young man that he had a hunch that he hadn't yet realized the full power that was hidden in his head. You need to look deep. With that, the old man leaned closer to Wushao. He placed a palm on his forehead, and Xu Wushao felt something start to change. Swirls of light and shadow appeared in his mind, and then images began to form in front of him, as if he was entering a dream world. It's a mental weapon. It's something that's in his head. All it takes is to strain your brains like he strains his muscles in battle. Xu Wushao was surprised to realize that the world of the mental sword had actually unfolded before him. He managed to sense its presence as if he was actually holding a weapon in his hands. It was a tool hidden deep in his mind, and now he was beginning to realize how to use it. Wushao felt a flood of emotions stirring his inner world. He was beginning to realize that he really was too limited in his vision. He now understood that his mind was a weapon that could be even more powerful than his physical strength. He concentrated and thought about the Nirvana sword. He seems to have figured out how it works. Yu Feng, who saw from the roof of the building that his friend Xu Wushao was in danger, expressed a desire to help him. He said that even if he had to break the agreement with Kyushu, he would still save him because Wushao always helped him in case of danger. Lin Qingxi asked him to wait for a while. The young man replied, "How can you wait if he is already going to die? She doesn't care. She kills people anyway. But he likes him, and she's a pathetic demon." The girl asked threateningly, "What did he just say?" Yu Fen replied fearfully that he didn't say anything, of course. He would wait a bit. We sit and wait. Suddenly, they saw a mental sword hanging over the battlefield. Yu Feng said in surprise, "This is a mental sword. Is this a sword made of qi?" Lin Qingxi corrected him, "This isn't a sword qi. This is a path of cultivation. He really started cultivating. Seeing the Nirvana sword raised above him and realizing its divine power, Shi Guangkun immediately urged his brother Shi Guangmeng to get out of here. Looks like they won't make it today. On the roof of the Yufeng building, high above the streets, Yufeng stood with bewilderment and amazement in his eyes. He stared down at the scene below, his heart beating faster as his mind tried to process reality. It was something incredible that didn't fit in with his idea of the world. He whispered, clutching the hem of his robe in his hand, that it was impossible. How could this happen? How did Xu Wuzhao enter the path of cultivation? He watched Xu Wuzhao display incredible skill, how his movements were precise and graceful, how his strength and power grew by the minute. It was like a rebirth. From an ordinary guy, he was turning into a fighter who could stand even in front of the Xi brothers. Yufeng paused on the roof for a long time, his thoughts running faster than he could catch them. He asked himself questions that he couldn't find the answers to. What happened to Xu Wuzhao? Lin Qingxi smiled her enigmatic smile as she spoke to Feng, as if she knew that Feng had already begun to understand the complexities and mysteries of the cultivation path. The sword is a mixture of elements. A great spark that burns within us and can only be ignited by those who have reached a certain point in their cultivation path. She paused for a moment, letting Feng absorb what she was saying. Then she asked him if there were any people he knew in Lingen City who had crossed the threshold of cultivation and started controlling the elements. Does he know such people? Feng replied that he didn't know who exactly could wield the elemental mixing sword. Lin Qingxi nodded as if confirming his words. She said that time is the best teacher. Cultivation requires willpower, perseverance, and self-belief. Those who are already in the cultivation realm can become the owners of the sword, a tool that reflects not only external forces, but also internal ones. The path of cultivation is not just about fighting the elements, but also learning about yourself. Feng thoughtfully replied that perhaps she was referring to Crazy Chen Jinghong's sword. Then he asked the girl, did she really think that he, Xu Wuzhao, could compare to Crazy Chen Jinghong's sword? Qingxi replied that this is exactly the case. You don't even need to think about it, it really is. Linen City is really interesting. It is worthy of its predecessors. No wonder he has a contract that no one is allowed to capture him. It's getting more and more interesting. In the end, those watching the fight from the roof of the building saw two corpses on the street. Standing above them, Xu Wuzhao thought that he had spent too much blood on this trick and might have died. At this time, his old teacher appeared again and told him that his cultivation level was too low and he might not be able to withstand the power of the sword. Wuzhao was angered by the old man's guile. Couldn't he have said so earlier? Before he had already used its power? Did he try to kill him? The old man replied that with his reincarnation cup, he wouldn't die even if he didn't think about it. He advised him not to freak out, but to improve and pump up his weak body properly. Then the teacher told him that he couldn't stay here any longer. Finally, he said that the sword of silence was hidden deep in his soul, and he advised him to remember these words carefully. As the old man disappeared into thin air, Wuzhou wondered if this old man was really destroyed. Xu Wuzhou clearly remembered his old master's words. No matter what happens, the first thing to do is always use the Samsara cup. This bowl can turn gold and silver into an energy liquid to restore qi and blood. Wuzhou thought about how good it was that he had absorbed 300 silver taels and obtained 300 drops of energy liquid that would help him restore his blood. After the time it took him to finally recover his strength, Wuzhou decided to quickly join his wife. He walked down the same street towards the Shi family's house. Yufeng, who was watching him from the roof of the building, was once again surprised at how quickly he recovered, got up and walked on as if nothing had happened. Lin Qingxi repeated again that Linen City was really getting more interesting. Fen asked her what she was thinking. Did she have some devious plan in mind again? The girl turned to face him and asked if he really wanted to know. The young man replied that no, he didn't want to know at all. Qingxi said that she still hadn't figured out what she would do in the near future with a genius who knew medicine and had entered the path of martial arts. Yufeng thought of Wuzhou with compassion because this little beast is constantly thinking about him. Then he said that he had some other matters to attend to and needed to leave, but before that, he wanted to tell her that he had met 2 disciples from the heavenly sect at Yufing's house last time. The girl asked if Zheng Tianjiao had any ideas about Linen City. The youth replied that he couldn't take care of 2 things at the same time, but she was too bold. Linen City wasn't a place to be headstrong. Kingxi asked him to find out the details of the 2 heavenly sect disciples. Feng replied that if this was the only thing he promised, then he would help. Kingxi looked at Feng thoughtfully, and there were echoes of deep thought in her eyes. She told Feng that it was clear to her that his own path was most important to him. His ambitions and aspirations are his own business. She can't force him to participate in something that goes against his beliefs. Feng watched Kingxi, realizing that this was a woman who understood the intricacies of intrigue perfectly and even had them all her own all the time. He told her that he was willing to help her find out the details about those 2 students, but this would be the last time he would enter into this. He doesn't want to become part of the argument between good and evil. Kingxi nodded understandingly. If he only decided to help her with this matter, she would appreciate it. Feng was relieved that he was able to get his point across. He assured Kingxi that he would find out everything he could about those 2 heavenly sect disciples. Then the young man said that he had an important day today, and he did not want to do business. He thought about the fact that there was a literary gathering in Linen today, and there must be a lot of girls there. He was determined to find a girl for the night tonight to help ease his sleepless nights. He felt an unaccustomed sense of excitement that spurred him on to meet someone new, especially someone of the opposite sex. Feng was intrigued by the opportunity to spend time with nice girls, chat about literature and mundane things. On the other hand, he understood that his real goals and interests might be far from superficial acquaintances. In front of a large stone house decorated with colorful lights, which created a fabulous atmosphere, people gathered. This time the balloons completed the whole picture, rising into the sky in a colorful cloud. People were talking, laughing, and their voices mingled in a joyous booming hum. The entrance to the house was guarded by 2 huge statues of lions, carved from granite, as if to demonstrate the grandeur and significance of this event. There was a muted clink of conversation and laughter outside the doors, and the scents of flowers and various dishes created a peculiar stir in the air. Fun and excitement were palpable in the air. Young people dressed up for the grand event gathered in groups, discussing the latest events and exchanging news. Their eyes shone with anticipation, and the smiles on their faces indicated that they were expecting something special. Every corner of this place seemed filled with mystery and joy. People sat in comfortable chairs and benches, maintaining an atmosphere of solemnity and expectation. Behind the stage, colorful lanterns were visible, ready to light up the event. Everything around us was full of anticipation and energy, as if the best moments of people who wanted to share their ideas, inspiration, and passion for the word were being collected. This house was a gathering place for those who believed in the magic of literature and could make it a reality. Literature lovers whispered that there would be a lot of people today, and making new acquaintances is always a good thing. Many people noticed a young man who came to the Jixia Academy literary meeting in an inappropriate way. The literary meeting is held annually, and this child is being too provocative. What a shame for Linen City. Wu Zhao, listening to this, thought that there was nothing so special about it. But he had learned 300 Tang verses. Jixia Academy must kneel before him. Jing Wang walked up to Wu Zhao. He said that for him to meet a genius from Linen City is a surprise. He asked him if it was true that his name was Wu Zhao and asked him threateningly who he thought he was. Why did he freeze? Or was he thinking about how stupid he was? The people gathered at the literary meeting were enthusiastic and engaged in a lively discussion of recent events. Looks and questions were thrown from eye to eye, as if the energy of creativity filled the air of this special place. But among the conversations and positive emotions, the conversation about Wu Zhao took on a new direction. Many people recalled Wu Zhao's recent performance at the Che family tournament arena. But most of the conversations were about his appearance. Everyone thought that he should have come here in more appropriate clothes. But he seems to be attracting attention everywhere he goes, even in spite of his appearance. Some ladies even found his appearance funny. He doesn't follow the standards and traditions, and this makes him noticeable. It was as if he had come from another world. Such conversations and comments about Xu Wuzhou were carried everywhere. Surprise was mixed with admiration, and the idea of which path of cultivation he had chosen aroused curiosity. The people present at the literary meeting discussed the young man, wondering that he was not ashamed to come here in this form. However, the young man did not hesitate to say that they were all worthless and warned them not to forget who he was. Jing Weng expressed contempt for him for having the audacity to call everyone worthless. He urged everyone present to come over so that everyone could see who the real trash in Linen Garden was. People came up and said nasty things about Wu Xiao. They said that this kid looked down on everyone, and besides, he dared to go to bed with another woman on the night of the wedding. What a shame. Only animals can do that. They told him to get out of here immediately, because people like him are not welcome here. Xu Wuxiao asked them, so they are all decent gentlemen here. Literature lovers unanimously replied that this is true. The young man said that in this case, he believes that a real man should have a reserved character. Jing Weng immediately retorted, saying that he was still very reserved, since he still hadn't kicked his ass. Wu Xiao bowed to him and said, if he is a decent man with a reserved character, then he obviously won't be angry if he beats him up. The young man immediately accepted his threat. He beat Jing Weng and told him that he would make him very handsome soft so that at least he could pretend to be a real man. The crowd watched the beating in confusion. Jing Wang begged them to stop beating him and claimed that he understood everything. The crowd, however, denounced Xu Wuxiao, calling him a madman. They said that he did not deserve the right to be here and asked him to leave the literary meeting place. The young man replied that he might not be a genius, but he could beat anyone to the punch. Xu Wuxiao walked into the special pavilion, noticing quite a few ladies who were very neat and dressed up on the way. The young man thought that indeed the celebration at the academy was grand. In the observation pavilion, the man sat down in a comfortable chair and began to watch the holiday. He compared the beauty of women and had to admit that no one looked better than his beloved Qin Mo Yufeng came to his pavilion and said that at such a social event he would never get a single lady if he didn't pretend to be a cultured person. Wu Xiao expressed surprise that brother Yufeng would show up for such an event, but in order to get the ladies, he would have to come up with a new plan. He acts so pompous without talents, he'll never get a lady. Yufeng then asked him to teach a couple of tricks to win over girls. Wu Xiao was thinking that this little guy really wanted to compete with him in winning women's hearts. He asked a friend if he could see the two ladies in the back of the park, and which of them, in his opinion, is better. Yufeng replied that the lady in blue robes looked better. Wu Xiao then told him that he would teach him a trick now, that's for sure. First, you need to focus on it and let it go with the thoughts that something will happen in the future, but you do not need to show feelings. Then, you need to start dominating it, coming up with something extraordinary, and finally, having gained the initiative, he will be able to kill two birds with one stone. Feng praised the tactics of brother Wu Xiao, who seemed pleased and offered him a book he wrote when he was receiving prenatal training. Let him learn it well and keep it only for himself. Feng thanked him and said that he had never imagined that Wu Xiao would pass on such knowledge to him. Wu Xiao stiffly replied that these were just the basics. When Feng succeeds in his training, he will teach him something more effective. Wu Xiao approached Feng with a smile on his face, a thin book with an exquisite binding in his hands, and shared some thoughts from his book with him. Wu Xiao opened the book and found the right page. This was the part where he talked about ways to win ladies' hearts. Wu Xiao began to quote himself, and his voice sounded confident and light, as if he actually believed what he was writing. Love is a tender and precious feeling that transforms our days. However, winning a lady's heart is an art that requires patience, attention, and respect. The first method is sincere interest. Listen, ask questions, and learn more about her hobbies and dreams. This creates a connection and gives you the opportunity to understand each other more deeply. The second is the ability to listen. The time you take to listen carefully can be invaluable. Show her that what she says means to you. The third is to be supportive. It is important to support her in her aspirations and goals, to be there when she needs it. The fourth is to give attention. Small signs of attention can have a big impact. It can be just a beautiful flower or a note with warm words. Wu Xiao closed the book and looked at Feng. He told him that winning the heart is a process that requires feelings and time. He should remember that it is important to be sincere and open. At this time, Yu Feng thought that Brother Wu Zhao was actually very correct and serious. It seems that people all over the world don't understand his brother. He decided that from today on, he will be his spiritual mentor. He warmly thanked Wu Zhao for his teaching and assured him that now that he had the scripture of truth, he would not return until all the ladies were defeated by it. He asked him for some time and said that he would be back soon. When her friend left, Wu Zhao thought that from a theoretical point of view, he was still a few steps ahead. Interrupting his thoughts, he suddenly saw a dazzling apparition on a bench at the back of the park. It was his little wife. He had finally found her. He went to see her. Meanwhile, Lin Qingxi sat down on the bench next to Qin Mo. She told her that she had come to talk to her face-to-face on purpose. She can't be blamed for all of Wu Zhao's affairs. She's just worried about her. Why doesn't she get a divorce? Mo replied that it was hard to go against the wishes of her parents, and they also owed the Tao family a huge debt. That alone is enough to stay with him. He's actually a good person at heart, but she just didn't expect him to do this to her. Wu Zhao, who was standing behind the tree and listening to their conversation, thought that now everyone around him thought that he was the one who messed with Lin Qingxi's brain. But he clearly remembers that on the day he came to this world, it was Lin Qingxi who took the trouble to seduce him. What was she really up to? The high-class girls who passed by turned to Ms. Qin and said that they had heard that she was a person of unsurpassed talent who hoped to enter the literary field at this evening's event. They asked her to read something of her own for them. The guests looked at Qin Mo carefully, waiting for her to share a piece of her inner world with them through poems. Qin Mo bit her lip a little as she felt everyone's eyes on her. She felt that she was going to have to open up, share her thoughts and feelings, and this caused her some anxiety. She replied that at the moment she did not have a suitable poem that could satisfy her and the distinguished guests of the literary meeting. Mo replied, trying to stay calm, that for her writing is a process that requires inspiration and deep emotions. She doesn't want to just show off her imperfections. She looked up, meeting the stares of the crowd. She believes that every word she writes should carry meaning and sincerity. I want her poems to sound like they come from the heart. She expressed her hope that someday she would find something that would really make her share it with them. She was asked if she really doesn't want to present her poem, or if it's just that it's made of pushkin, how a pipidast is made of them. The ladies whispered that she couldn't write a poem on even the lightest subject like wine with the moon. It seems that all she has is empty bragging rights. No one had ever seen her write anything. For sure, this is how the Qin family is trying to raise their reputation. If she could do anything, would her own family give up for a one like Wu Zhao? Who does she think she is? The Qin family was mired in failures from all sides. It's only a matter of time before they die. On her wedding day, her husband chose to do what only animals do, rather than touch her. Literary career. She's probably got a lot of shit in her head, just like her badass husband. Lin Qingxi yelled at these ladies and told them to shut up. Mo asked me to keep them. There's no need to pay attention to gossip. Let them say what they want. Wu Zhao, who was standing in the bushes and heard all the insults of his wife, thought that she was humiliated because of him. He must surely avenge her. Yu Feng was rushing towards ex-Wu Zhao, opening his arms for a hug, saying that his techniques were very useful. He had already arranged a meeting time with several girls. Then he stared in amazement at the piece of paper on which his friend was busily writing hieroglyphs. Fen asked what he was writing, to which Wu Zhao replied that he didn't need to know. Then he made a little airplane out of a piece of paper and said that those women at the bottom of the garden irritated him to no end. Someone has to teach them a lesson. After saying that, he launched his makeshift airplane. Fen was surprised by this and thought, what is this technique? Without using internal energy, it can make paper fly. Deliver a message without being detected. Meanwhile, a paper airplane landed on the table in front of the houses that had offended his wife. One of the ladies asked what kind of paper was on the table. Apparently, this is what Kimo wrote. She turned to Kimo and said, I bet Mo will be afraid to read this to the public because she knows that her writing is trash. She decided to see for herself what Kimo had done. No one could understand where the paper on the table came from, and when did Mo manage to write it. The lady began to read. The verse was called Water Song. When did the shining moon first set? Someone asked the blue sky while raising the cup. That man didn't know he was sitting in the moon chamber. What a year it is tonight. I wish I could ride the wind and get back there, but I'm not afraid of the amber towers. I can't stand the cold in those high places. Today there are along the scarlet pavilions, bowing under silken arches, it shines on the sleep deprived. She was used to not knowing grief. Otherwise, why is it full, even when is it time to be a month? Mortals have regrets and joys. They'd fight and make up. The moon is sometimes dark, sometimes light, calm or waves. There was a rustle among the literature lovers. Everyone was struck by the profound meaning of these lines of poetry. People expressed the opinion that this is just a great work. The guests of the gathering couldn't hide their admiration when they heard Kinmo's poems. Every line of the poem was like music to their soul. Everyone seemed to be immersed in the atmosphere created by Kinmo's poems. Her words shimmered in the air like flowers blooming in the sun. The deep emotions that she put into each line were intertwined with the feelings of the listeners. The words of the poem reflected her inner world, and the guests felt how each turn of the phrase gave rise to new images and feelings. Their faces were tense with attention, and their eyes sparkled with delight. After the reading was finished, there was a moment of silence in the garden, as if everyone was deep in thought after such deep and sincere poetry. Cheers then spread throughout the grounds organized for the literary gathering by the Shi family. One of the guests called it a masterpiece that penetrated their hearts. Kinmo could feel the emotions flooding through her. She wasn't struck by the responses the poetry elicited. She realized that someone very talented wrote these amazing lines and passed them off as her work. People kept saying that it was just a great piece of art. And this is the poem that Kinmo was dissatisfied with. How wrong they were. Hadn't they called her an incompetent fraud before? These poems, even when compared to the works of the great luminaries of the Jixia Academy, are roughly on the same level. Without exception, the visitors to the literary evening fell on their knees in front of Kinmo, begging and even begging her to teach them how to write poems. The girl was at a loss. She didn't understand what was going on here. And Xu Wushao was exultant, shouting that his little wife was the best. Mo had a hunch that this poem might have been written by Brother Wushao. All the literary elites in the city saw that Kinmo had an incredibly powerful aura. On the way to the city there were two travelers, an old man and his grandson. The old man, with years of experience and wisdom, walked beside his young grandson, who found in every word and action something amazing and important. The journey was short, but it provided them with an opportunity to observe nature in its diversity. At first, the sun shone brightly, giving warm light and joy. They talked and shared their thoughts on life and the world around them. However, the old man suddenly stopped and looked up at the sky. He said that the weather was changing rapidly these days, and there was no way to say for sure whether it would rain in an hour or immediately. The grandson looked up at the sky and saw that the clear sky was beginning to cover with black clouds. His face expressed surprise. This is truly unbelievable. A second ago it was sunny, and now it feels like the sky is changing right before their eyes. The old man nodded, hearing the interest and admiration in his grandson's voice. He said that nature is a living organism that is constantly changing and transforming. It never stands still, it breathes and flows like a living river of time. Soon, black clouds covered the sky, and the first drops of rain began to fall on the ground. The old man and grandson decided to take shelter under a large tree to wait for the rain to pass. They sat there, listening to the sound of raindrops and observing nature, which responded to the changeable weather with its changes. The old man smiled at his grandson, putting his hand on his shoulder. Nature is a real miracle, and her every whim makes the world more diverse and interesting. He asked his grandson not to be afraid of changes, they make their lives richer. There is nothing permanent about nature and life in general, but it is this changeability that makes the world so exciting and amazing. The grandson suggested that the old man quickly return to the city. It seems that there will be a thunderstorm. Sure enough, soon the entire sky was flashing with bright lightning, and the buildings in the city were shaking with powerful thunderclaps. Travelers who were caught on a hillock by the storm saw that lightning had just struck the very center of Linen. The old man told his grandson that it wasn't lightning at all. Someone has entered the path. The entire social audience was incredibly surprised when Kinmo rose into the air with a sparkling aura. Everyone was in shock. Why did it take off? How can people fly? Literature lovers couldn't believe their eyes. Someone said that she had entered the path. Or maybe it was because of that lightning bolt. This was the Lord's sign, the deity who ignited the moon. This is a talent, absolutely. What's more strange is that this lady doesn't have much energy or level, yet she was able to enter the path thanks to her poetic gift, and all at the behest of heaven. Big changes are coming to Linen City now. In the darkness of the night, two indistinct shadows stood against the walls of the mansion that was shrouded in darkness. One person said that King Mo entered the path through poetry. The other added that if she was truly on the path, then their plans were destined to come true. Since she has just entered the path, she has no idea how to use her power. The first agreed with him and said that then they should not waste time. It is necessary to mutilate it. Lin Qingxi walked over to Qin Mo with a smile and warmly congratulated her. She told Qin Mo that she really didn't think that her poetry would be so powerful. Her words enlivened the world around them and filled it with feelings. Qin Mo glanced at King Silly, trying to determine the level of sincerity in her words. She didn't expect that her work would provoke such a reaction from others. Her heart was filled with gratitude and joy. However, Qin Mo also felt a sense of surprise inside. How could this happen? Questions began to rush around inside Mo. Who actually wrote this poem? Why was it signed with her name? Was it a gift from heaven? Lin Qingxi once again congratulated Qin Mo and expressed her gratitude for the pleasure. Unexpectedly, Lin Qingxi loudly warned the girl that she was in danger from behind. A black shadow armed with a curved blade rushed at the girl. Qingxi asked, "Who is he? How dare he attempt murder, even at a cultural event?" Seeing what was happening, the crowd of poetry lovers instantly scattered. The two girls were left alone with a man dressed like a ninja. He had already raised the blade above Qin Mo's head when Su Wusho's voice stopped him. He advised the killer to think carefully before going after his wife. The fallen assassin was embedded in the wall. Wusho anxiously asked his wife if she was okay. Before she could respond, a second assassin charged at the youth, but he was also sent to meet the creator, unable to block any of Su Wusho's blows. The two of them were at the post-reborn stage. But Su Wusho's strength was enough to easily kill the two of them like a salad. He killed two people in the post-reborn stage in one fell swoop. Everyone who watched this lightning-fast match had to admit that it looked like Su Wusho was a lot more than he let on. They had obviously underestimated him greatly. They decided that they probably shouldn't say any more nasty things about him. Qin Mo, finally feeling tired after the excitement of the day, decided to turn to her husband. She looked at her husband and asked him if he was all right. He looks like something is bothering him. Su Wusho smiled as he felt his wife's concern and attention. He replied that it was up to him to ask her how she was feeling. Qin Mo realized that her husband was genuinely worried about her and smiled back. She said it was important that he knew she was okay. Yes, it was a little stressful, but she got through it. Wusho was surprised that Mo was so strong and took her hand in his, telling her not to forget about her peace of mind. She definitely needs to rest now. Qin Mo nodded, feeling grateful inside for his concern. Su Wusho smiled at her and gently placed his lips on her forehead. Qin Mo felt a sense of peace envelop her. She felt protected and realized that her husband was always there, ready to support her in her aspirations and life changes. Su Wusho asked Qin Mo, "Does it hurt?" She said she was fine. Wusho then suggested that she go with him. The girl asked him what he wanted to do. Mo asked if he was taking her to visit the Shi family. He said it was unmanly not to be able to protect the woman you love. As Su Wusho and Mo walked towards the Shi family's residence, Lin Qingxi tried to dissuade him by explaining that it was the Shi family's stronghold. Wusho advised her to pray that she had nothing to do with it. Mo advised her husband to solve problems at home, not here. The young man did not agree with her and said that he would make sure that the attack on her did not go unpunished. He told her to just follow him. Lin Qingxi was startled by Wusho's words. Did Shai Guangping keep their secret, or was he just using her? Shai Wusho and Mo had an armed guard stationed outside the mansion, and the young man asked him that he was probably eager to lend him his sword. The man backed away in fright and gave up his weapon. Wu Xiao thanked him for his kindness, and the guard nodded and thought that it was better not to mess with such a nutcase. The onlookers watching wondered if Wu Xiao was completely out of his mind. He single-handedly dared to challenge the Shi family. It wasn't a fact that Qin Qingmo only suffered a few bruises. Right now, it would be better for him to swallow his pride and talk to her about it, rather than approach the Shi family. Does he even think about the consequences if he shows off like this in front of his beloved? After arriving at the gate, Wu Xiao shouted at the Shi clan people to get their asses over here. Mo tried to persuade him to go home, but Wu Xiao said that he was not worthy to touch even her beautiful hands, but someone had the audacity to attack her, so he intends to find out everything to the end. Meanwhile, the Shi family warriors ran out to meet him. They resented the fact that someone dared to sneak into the clan's territory. They wanted to know who the Greyhound was. However, the young man quickly dealt with the attackers and told the survivors to call the head of the Shi Sheng family. He needed to see him very urgently. He ordered the rest of them to get out of here, or else he would send them all to the next world. There was some speculation among the clan warriors that Wu Xiao was already too tough for them. After all, he easily mowed down the family's guards with one blow. And these people were all at the peak of energy and at the blood stage. With an incredible roar and fire, a huge human monster appeared in front of the youth. He asked if he had the guts to go against the Shi family. Xu Wuzhao smiled and turned to the big man, asking if he didn't recognize him. It's him, his grandpa. The surviving guard reported to the master that Xu Wuzhao had barged in and started a massacre without even bothering to give the reason. Many brothers are wounded or killed. Shi Sheng turned to the young man and said if he didn't give him a clear explanation right away, he swore that even if King Silly himself came here in person, he would still trample him to dust. Xu Wuzhao agreed to give an explanation and said, since their efforts had injured his wife, it was only logical that the Shi family would pay for it. That's his explanation. Sheng was extremely indignant and said that Wuzhao had already lost all fear of the Shi family. This already in any gate does not climb. The onlookers who were watching from behind the fortress gates reasoned that it was very romantic, an outburst of rage because of the encroachments on the beauty. How can you resist such a domineering husband? Qin Qingmo looked fondly at her husband and thought that she was really very important to him. Shi Sheng wondered why Qin Qingmo was still not crippled. Where did these two imbeciles miscalculate? Out loud, he said that the attempt on Mo's life had nothing to do with his family, but on the contrary, he killed a lot of people from the Shi family before collecting any evidence. Was he joking with them? Now he, Xu Wuzhao, was finished. Xu stopped the big man's eloquence and said that he didn't think that the head of the Shi family would be so cowardly that he wouldn't admit to his own actions. He's amazed at how shameless he is. His truth is that he really has no proof, and more importantly, this is his territory. The willing onlookers whispered that it was stupid to go up against the Shi family alone. It was quite obvious. They shouted at the head of the Shi family to spare the young man. He was the son-in-law of the Qin family after all. But Shi Sheng seemed to have a different mindset. He attacked Xu Wuzhao. The territory of the Shi family's estate was covered in ash and smoke from the magic attacks used by both sides. People watching the fierce battle said that it looked like Wu Xiao was screwed this time. Is he really going to die like this? Then they didn't see anyone coming out of the smoke. A huge round hammer, the main weapon of the family head, rolled out from the smoke. Everyone was surprised. They couldn't believe that the head of the Shi family was defeated. How is this possible? The head of the Shi family is defeated by Xu Wuzhao. Some Huthed called for revenge for the head and pounce on the winner. The more intelligent ones replied that the head of the clan himself had lost to him, and if they attacked, they would immediately go to the next world after him. Fans and fans of martial arts who watched the epic match said that it hadn't been long since the Battle of the Families, but now even Shi Sheng, with the 7th level of the post-reborn stage, couldn't hold a candle to Xu Wuzhao. This young man is progressing very fast. This is a great joy. The kneeling giant, the former head of the Shi clan, could barely move his tongue as he said that even with his battle technique, he couldn't stop Wu Xiao's attack. Why would he have such devilish power? The young man raised his sword over him and said that this was a question he could ask the King of Hell. Sheng shouted that he couldn't kill him if he killed him. Shi Guangping wouldn't let it go. Just then, the aforementioned Shi Guangping entered the manor grounds and ordered Shi Wuxiao to stop. The youth asked cheerfully, "Isn't that young Master Shi?" He didn't expect that he would also be here with the Shi family. He promised to talk to him as soon as he got rid of the big guy. But Shi prevented him from carrying out his plan. He attacked Wuxiao and gave Shang an opportunity to dodge the blow. The young man expressed regret that he didn't manage to kill Shi Shang even though he was close to it. Shi Guangping told Xu to stop already. Linen City is not a place where a puny little person can do whatever they want. Wuxiao asked him again, so he does whatever he wants. He sent his men to prevent him from reaching the Shay house. Unfortunately, he ended them with a single blow, which shows how weak they were. If you compare him, Guangping, to him, he is the one who does whatever he wants. She cautioned the young man against making unsubstantiated accusations. He denied that he had sent anyone, that it had nothing to do with him. At the same time, he thought that this person had killed 2 of his elders and was surprised once again at how much power Xu Wuxiao was hiding. The onlookers continued to gossip. They said that Xu Wuxiao and Qin Qinmo were attacked one after another. It looks like someone is seriously targeting the Qin family. And now Shi Guangping is coming out of the Shi family courtyard. Is this place not so easy? Obviously it's better to stay out of it. At this time, Mo reasoned that when Wuxiao was attacked, he pretended that nothing had happened, but when she was attacked, he destroyed an entire family in a rage. She should reconsider her attitude towards him. Xu Wuxiao declared to Shi Guangping, it doesn't matter if he admits it or not. After all, they've been fighting for a long time. He offered him 2 options. The first is to get out of the way and let him finish Shi Shang off. The second is to fight him to the death. Guangping replied that it was a very interesting suggestion. Did he, Xu Wuxiao, think that he was really afraid of him? He promised to fight him in a week's time, in front of all the people of Linen City, to the death, and let heaven decide the outcome. Then he asked for Wuxiao's opinion on the matter. The young man replied that he had been waiting for this answer from him, and he was telling him that he agreed to the duel. Shi Guangping was pleased to think that, as he expected, this jerk agreed. In a week, he will level up his killing technique. After that, no one in the post-reborn stage will be able to resist him. He glared angrily into Xu Wuxiao's eyes and said that once the time came, he would crush him. The young man thought that since Che had postponed the battle for a week, it meant that he wanted to prepare something. Does he think he's the only one with trump cards? He still has a reserve set aside in that bowl. It just so happened that he decided to use this week to stabilize his cultivation level. He stopped Guangping, who was about to leave, and told him that if he lost, this mansion would also belong to him. What a quiet, elegant house is just right for a gentleman like him. Guangping agreed. Shi Shang tried to object and told young Master Qi that this was his ancestral home. To which Guangping, his eyes flashed, asked the big man, does Shang really think that he will lose? Wu Zhao turned to his wife and said that she was injured and it was better for her to go home and get some rest. Mo agreed with him and said that if he needed anything in the future, let him tell her. She will always try to satisfy his request. Wu Zhao was very pleased with how nice his wife treated him. After that, they went home. People, looking after them, said that today the Shi family was destroyed to the ground. And a week later, there will be a battle between the most worthless person in Linen and the most influential young master in the city. Who would have thought that Wu Zhao had already become so powerful? When the young people left, the head of the Shi clan asked young Master Xai. Now, Xu Wuxiao was not allowed to be harsh with him. Why didn't he kill him that hour to eliminate a potential threat? Meanwhile, they could finish off Qin Qinmo. Guangping replied that they underestimated this guy. He is extremely strong, and yet he has patiently endured bullying for more than 10 years. His intent is hidden unimaginably deep. He could be at the peak of the post-reborn stage, just like him, Guangping. He's not sure he could kill him right now. Shen said that he realized that it was because of his beautiful wife that he fell into such a rage, or there was some other magic mixed in. A person with such deep intentions as Xu Wuxiao will come up with a plan long before he starts acting. He had endured for so long, he must have been preparing something grandiose, so they need to be on their guard. Xu Wuxiao just wanted to check how comfortable the bed in his wife's room was. This was his real intention, but Qin Kingmo misunderstood. The woman saw her husband's request as a threat, so without hesitation, she escorted Xu Wuxiao out the door. Before Xu Wuxiao left the room, he received several more blows. The last one was so strong that he felt an unbearable pain in his lower back. It seems that the back broke before Xu Wuxiao had a chance to use it. Xu Wuxiao lay aimlessly in the square, trying to figure out why his request had angered his wife so much. After a few minutes, the guy's peace was disturbed. Behind him, Xu Wuxiao could clearly see footsteps approaching. Yongji gloated over the situation of his new relative. The boy had warned Xu Wuxiao not to think about his sister's room again. Qin Kingmo has already given her husband too much, and Xu Wuxiao's victory in the family competition doesn't give him any advantages. Yongji advised the relative to return to his shed and not interfere with the rest of the family. At the late hour of the night, the entire manor was preparing for bed, and only Yongji was loitering around instead of cultivating his energy. Xu Wuxiao, as a son-in-law, was simply obliged to help his relative raise his cultivation level. Before Yongji could even utter a few words, Xu Wuxiao had already raised his fist over him. His son-in-law had no intention of giving any favors, so the entire area was shaken by the rumbling and shouting that came from the manor in the mountains until morning. On that day, unbearable screams pierced the sky both in the starry hour and in the pre-dawn hour. Yongji and Xu Wuxiao awarded insomnia to all the residents of Ling'an City. Xu Wuxiao didn't try to hide the fact that he took great pleasure in cultivating his own happiness from the pain of others. In the future, when the boy is upset again, he will definitely return to the youngster to teach him mind-to-mind for the benefit of cultivation. The beautiful lady watched the cultivation level rise from the roof of a nearby house. The girl was clearly amused that Xu Wuxiao was out on the streets at the whim of his wife. When he noticed Dai Youyao, he was surprised by her late-night visit. The beautiful lady insisted that on a similar long night, Xu Wuxiao should put aside all his doubts and follow her to put his thoughts and soul in order. Xu Wuxiao didn't even object to the dubious suggestion because he remembered the words that, "What is lost at sunset, you will definitely be able to find at dawn." Xu Wuxiao was rushing into the open arms of his nocturnal companion, but Dai Youyao stopped him at the very last moment. Everyone knew that Dai Youyao was a bad woman. It was easy for a beautiful lady to fool a naive person. For the last time, Dai Youyao wanted to warn Xu Wuxiao and make sure that his intentions were serious. The guy wasn't going to give up on his intentions, but in that case, Xu Wuxiao would do everything to make sure that they were made fools of together. Both Dai Youyao and Xu Wuxiao in Ling'an City were known as the most pitiful scum. If one of the dregs falls below the other, then he will certainly try to drag his opponent with him. Xu Wuxiao offered to submit to fate, even if it meant being fooled. Dai Youyao was tired of playing with the naive boy, so the beautiful lady decided to get down to business immediately. Shi Guanping is working on a third-level combat technique. Xu Wuxiao's battle with him, which will take place in a week's time, is fraught with a great threat. Of course, Xu Wuxiao was upset that the beautiful lady was changing her mind faster than he could turn the page. But Xu Wuxiao was very confident in his abilities, and he swore to his knight companion that he would eventually win. Since Xu Wuxiao was so confident, Dai Youyao decided to make a bet. If the guy loses, then he will be obliged to help his friend in one very difficult case, and if Xu Wuxiao manages to win, then he can ask Dai Youyao for anything he wants. The young people agreed on the outcome of the dispute quickly enough. Before leaving, Xu Wuxiao only wanted to say that he didn't need Dai Youyao's body. He just wanted to prove to the fair lady that a man's honor was unshakable. It wasn't the first time Dai Youyao found a guy charming. His lips always resisted, but his body spoke for itself. Xu Wuxiao considered himself invincible and saw no problem mixing Shi Gongping's name with mud. But the gap between Xu Wuxiao and Shi Gongping's cultivation levels was too wide, especially when there is such a big difference between the 8th and 9th levels of the post-reborn stage. Dai Youyao knew very well that a naive guy would definitely not win. The warm days dragged on one after another. Xu Wuzhou and Shi Gongping's competition was getting closer and closer by the minute. The guy did not doubt his victory at all, and therefore spent all his free time in the warehouse, admiring his fairy tale dreams. The door to the warehouse opened. Startled, Xu Wuzhou jumped up from the makeshift bed and met his new father's gaze. Just yesterday, Senior Master sent Yongji to his son-in-law to send a request for a meeting. For several hours, the senior gentleman waited for his relative in the reception rooms, but he did not show up. Xu Wuzhou tried to correct his situation by telling him about his late return home. He now understood that Yongji had come to him yesterday to pass on something important, not just to gloat. Xu Wuzhou now decided to always ask the youngster about the purpose of the visit before hitting him. The senior master was going to teach his son-in-law the martial technique that Xu Wuzhou's father had left him, the Qin family's training ground. This technique was invented by Xu Wuzhou's father a long time ago, so Xu Wuzhou must learn it carefully. Before starting his classes, the senior master decided to demonstrate for himself what kind of power his son-in-law would have to face. Xu Wuzhou was startled because the 3 inscriptions of the 3rd stage were not something he wanted to inherit from his father. A sky-splitting blow. Senior Master gathered the 3 seals of the 3rd stage in his hand. The energy that had accumulated in his palms burst out, cutting through everything in its path. After a column of dust landed on the ground, Xu Wuzhou managed to make out a nearby building. The stone structure was riddled with deep cracks. From the senior master to the building, there were 3 lanes on the ground. They found their continuation on the building. The power of the 3 seals was quite powerful. Senior Master admitted that with his skills, he could only realize strength at the level of the 3rd stage technique. However, Xu Wuzhou is in the process of cultivating the technique to its maximum level. Once he discovered the limitless limit, he would be able to perform hundreds and thousands of similar strikes. Senior Master was sure that one day Xu Wuzhou would submit to the void itself with this incredible technique. Encouraged by the 3rd seals, Xu Wuzhou criticized the void image. In his mind, the split void was the sky. The boy was tormented by doubts. It was hard to believe that he had inherited a deadly weapon from his father. Either the technique is actually so powerful, or it is a hint that the father was much stronger than the son. The only happy discovery was that Xu Wuzhou's power would soon be activated. Perhaps his dad is a hero from a secluded clan, and my mother is a saint from some great sect. If one day the parents find their son, it means that Xu Wuzhou will live a luxurious life for the rest of her life and will have nothing to deny herself. The guy was dreaming so much that he already imagined himself as the main antagonist from The Proud Sky of the Dragon, which fell directly into the comic. A strong slap on the back from his father brought him back to reality. The senior master was afraid that his explanation was too deep, and the son-in-law didn't understand anything. The sky-slashing strike may be strong, but it's quite difficult to master. Senior Master had cultivated the 3 seals for several tens of years to reach such power. The Senior Master was ready to answer any questions that came up, but if Xu Wuzhou didn't master the beginner level of the technique in a week, then he would be banned from fighting Xi Jinping. The forces are too unequal, and the Senior Master can't just watch his son-in-law go to his doom. In fact, the Senior Master originally didn't intend to give his son-in-law his permission. It was impossible to master the ancient technique in a week. Xu Wuzhou, having failed an impossible task, will stay in the manor instead of sacrificing herself on the battlefield. 3 wide streaks split the ground from Xu Wuzhou to the house across the street. Continuing on the stone walls, the seals destroyed the house to the ground. The Senior Master was confused. All of his plans to keep his son-in-law out of the competition were ruined, as was the building across the street. In less than a couple of minutes, Xu Wuzhou was already making full use of the initial level of Heaven's cleaving strike. The guy himself was pleasantly surprised by his abilities. Sky-slashing strike is truly a technique of incredible power. According to Xu Wuzhou, there were too many letters in the scroll, which took up a certain amount of time. The cup of samsara has the power of enlightenment. Learn combat techniques with it, like 2 fingers on the asphalt. The Senior Master was depressed. The naive kid's claim that it took him a long time to learn the technique was incomparable to the dozens of years that Senior Master had spent. Even though Xu Wuxiao used the technique brilliantly, there were still some things that he couldn't understand. He wanted to understand the technique of slashing the sky in a nutshell. Forgetting all the past promises, Senior Master refused to help his son-in-law and hurried out of the training ground. In addition, his father-in-law was so angry that he forbade Xu Wuxiao from entering the Qin family home until he became an expert in all matters that arose. Xu Wuxiao admitted that he had one of the most strict fathers-in-law in the world. However, since the guy now has a new technique, it's time to level up the next level of cultivation. The Senior Master felt broken and betrayed. He had always taken his son-in-law for a stupid child, so he knew for sure that he couldn't master such a powerful ability. The eldest master gave up 10 years of his life in order to earn the entry level of the 3 heaven-splitting strike seals. Now the man didn't even know what else he could teach his son-in-law, since he was so far ahead of him in leveling up his abilities. Still, the eldest master appreciated his new relative's narrow-minded mind. After all, if the guy exposed him, it would be impossible to control Xu Wuxiao in the future. It was time for cultivation. After Xu Wuxiao absorbed Metayu Fen, he would be one step closer to reaching the 9th level of the post-reborn stage. And with the sky-splitting punch, Shi Gongping wasn't even an opponent. Qin Qingmo decided to take a walk around the manor, and on the training ground she came across her lover. Xu Wuxiao was very happy to meet his wife because it seemed to him that the girl specifically went to look for him after she missed him. Qin Qingmo explained that while walking, she decided to come to the site to remove the broken equipment from the warehouse. The Senior Master wanted all the old and unnecessary things to be sold. The only problem was that Xu Wuxiao had absorbed all the items from the warehouse with the Samsara bowl. If Qin Qingmo saw this, he would never be able to get out of the chasm that was forming between them. Ahead of his wife, Xu Wuxiao dashed between her and the warehouse door. Trying to distract the attention of his beloved, the guy showered compliments and incredibly embarrassed his wife. At first, Qin Qingmo was even pleased to receive compliments, but when they became too much, the girl was unwilling to continue the conversation. Qin Qingmo managed to get rid of the intrusive husband with amazing ease. She was already on her way home, and Xu Wuxiao was only thinking that his life was hanging in the balance. Qin Qingmo suddenly stopped walking. The girl wanted to apologize to her husband. The Qin family's business is now at rock bottom, thanks to the efforts of the Mao and Li families. If the pair were to falter, the entire Qin family would be in an even more pitiful position than the Zhao family had once been. At the moment, Qin Qingmo was unable to think of anything else. In that case, if Xu Wuxiao solved the Qin family's problems, then he and his lover could become just an ordinary couple. Xu Wuxiao and Qin Qingmo will live like a normal husband and wife. In the Qin family, it was customary to not believe what Xu Wuxiao promised. The guy was considered a night fool who was not able to take care of himself. In Qin Qingmo's opinion, only the gods and lords of the sword were able to help the Qin family. It is impossible for Xu Wuxiao to accomplish such a feat. But Xu Wuxiao was unstoppable. His love for his wife gave him strength, and he was determined to take the Qin family's business to unimaginable heights. Settling scores with the Mao and Li families is easy. But if Xu Wuxiao were to ask his father about this, he would certainly not believe it. It looked like the guy just needed to find a different approach to his father-in-law. Local bandits surrounded Zhao Sheng. The hooligans frankly didn't understand how, after all the tragic events, a guy could consider himself the head of the Zhao family. The reason why the true head still hasn't killed Zhao Sheng is because he wants to watch the guy live in filth and humiliation. Xu Wuxiao watched the scene of humiliation from the sidelines. When the right moment came, the guy came out of the shadows and offered Zhao Sheng to take revenge on all the offenders with his help. The local bandits immediately didn't like that the Qin family's son-in-law was trying to meddle in other people's problems. Even if Zhao Sheng was rejected by everyone, Xu Wuxiao was willing to help him. The healing rhythm of yin-yang sank into Zhao Sheng's mind and unleashed an incomparable feeling. Zhao Sheng's strength returned, and his physical condition improved along with it. The local bandits were now watching Su Wuzhao and his acquaintance with undisguised horror. Zhao Sheng's energy meridians were severely damaged. The guy was even considered a cripple, but now he recovered in an instant, all thanks to Su Wuzhao's unique powers. For 3 long years, Zhao Sheng had been waiting for this opportunity. The vengeance that the boy had longed for had been obtained. But Zhao Sheng was not going to take revenge to prove his strength to the public, but to tell people that he would not return everything that he had once lost. It was too late to apologize. Now the harsh hour of reckoning is coming for all the offenders. In just a few strikes, Zhao Sheng successfully smashed through a crowd of local bandits. Su Wuzhao was sure that the guy was definitely born the best of the best, since such power was available to him right now. But Su Wuzhao had only recovered some of his friend's energy. It seems that Su Wuzhao has indeed found a great assistant. Zhao Sheng didn't like Su Wuzhao's loud statements. The guy was only at the post-reborn stage of cultivation, and he already dared to control a creature that exceeded his maximum level. Zhao Sheng was sure that it would be easy for him to deal with such a pathetic kid. Su Wuzhao was interested in watching Zhao Sheng admit his mistake. In addition, the upcoming competition was a great opportunity to practice your new abilities. Zhao Sheng's confidence vanished into thin air right after he saw the sword that Su Wuzhao used in the post-reborn stage. With such power, Su Wuzhao could subdue any person, which he did. Zhao Sheng fell to his knees. Now he did not oppose the will of his new master, and even found the company of the powerful young man pleasant. Zhao Sheng good-naturedly provided weapons to the Qin family. With this gesture, he greatly relieved the Qin family's extreme need. The senior master was thanking a follower of the Zhao family for their help, but Zhao Sheng said that it was all done at the behest of a powerful person. Of course, the senior master immediately tried to find out the name of the generous sponsor, but Su Wuzhao carefully hinted that it was not worth it. Knowing that Zhao Sheng wouldn't be able to handle some matters, Su Wuzhao snuck into the room to personally supervise the negotiations. Eldest master didn't like the idea of his son-in-law chilling out instead of cultivating his abilities. Zhao Sheng tried to put down the family conflict, but the senior master was adamant. He lamented that his son-in-law had set up a duel with Shi Gongping himself. Taking advantage of the delay, Zhao Sheng bowed and announced that it was time for him to hurry about his business. Revealing the identity of the sponsor was unacceptable, and Zhao Sheng didn't want to stay in this family any longer. Qin Qingmo knew very well that Zhao Sheng was crippled for the rest of his life after being injured by the energy meridian. But now he walks the world and uses his powers as if nothing had happened. It looked like someone had healed the boy with Chi energy, but the identity of Qin Qingmo's healer was still unknown. The girl was very interested in learning about the life of a talented healer, and therefore she went to her father in the hope that he knew at least a little information. Judging from Zhao Sheng's demeanor, the senior master assumed that the merchant was personally acquainted with his savior. After a little thought, both father and daughter came to certain conclusions. Senior master had no doubt that the miraculous healing was made possible by the agreement with brother Xu. He probably asked the best of the best to protect Su Wuzhao and help senior master solve the Qin family's problems at the same time. The senior master's speculations had nothing to do with the actual state of affairs. In his daydream, the man already imagined what an invaluable contribution he would make to Su Wuzhao's development thanks to the Great Agreement. So the day of the battle with Shi Gongping arrived, the day when Su Wuzhao will become famous throughout Linen City. Yongji followed the relative and tried to shield him from questionable actions. Su Wuzhao's behavior was contrary to his father's orders, and Yongji was very displeased with this. Without any permission, Su Wuzhao left the residence grounds and made the Qin family worry. Knowing that he was superior to Yongji, Su Wuzhao didn't take long to listen to empty claims. As soon as the youngster was reminded of possible training to improve his combat abilities, he immediately retreated. After a while, Yongji regained his strength and returned to his relative. The guy insisted that since their last meeting, he had changed a lot, and now he could not be considered a weak and useless teenager. Ever since Su Wuzhao had taught his relative his last lesson, Yongji had worked hard, gone through a series of painful trials, and finally mastered the master grade of an extremely powerful martial technique. Xu Wushao was surprised that his relative cultivated energy just to fight him. Yangji's intentions were simple. He only wanted to regain his pride as the eldest son of the Qin family. Xu Wushao decided not to refuse, but warned Yangji that he should act quickly because the guy still needs to steam off for the battle with Chai Gongping. Yangji had always believed that underestimating him was a big mistake. This time, the guy was going to demonstrate his abilities and teach his son-in-law a lesson. Revered treasures of the world, mantra, Ronaldo. Bang-ho Min-ho. Waving wyvern in flight, Yangji was about to push Xu Wuxiao's face into a direct impact, but at the last moment, Xu Wuxiao received a crushing blow from his son-in-law. In Xu Wuxiao's opinion, there was nothing good about Yangji's tasteless techniques. If this was a real battle, by the time Yangji finished showing off, the opponent would be able to kill him 1,000 times or more. Yangji was still the same as before. Nothing has changed. But Xu Wuxiao promised to fix everything. When he returns from the competition, there will be a training session. Yangji's heart was filled with pain and suffering. Slowly but surely the guy turned into a cleaver. Melancholy overwhelmed the river, the heart is torn, the rain keeps coming, blurring the appeal. Xu Wuxiao always slapped his relative in the face, and Yangji sincerely believed that beauty was his only wealth. At the training ground, Xu Wuxiao met his father-in-law. The elder master had been waiting for his son-in-law with a drawn blade for a long time. Before Xu Wuxiao can go to the competition with Chai Gongping, he will be forced to defeat his father-in-law. Only then would the senior master stop doubting Xu Wuxiao's abilities and let him go with a calm ability to gain national recognition. The senior master hoped that Xu Wuxiao would accept defeat with dignity and stay in the residence, but it seems that the man misunderstood his son-in-law's words. Xu Wuxiao's primary concern was that if he won, the family authority of the senior master would be incompatible with defeat. The elder master's anger was not long in coming. The man was determined to wean his son-in-law from the bad habit of running even before he could walk. He knew that his father was only concerned for his son-in-law's life, but Xu Wuxiao was forced to go to the duel. Xu Wuxiao wanted to prove to Linen City and its surrounding people that nothing is impossible for a hero. Without reciting the spell from the ancient scroll, he activated the 3 seals' heaven-slashing strike and destroyed the training ground. Xu Wuxiao advised Senior Master to wait for him to return with a victory. It was difficult for the head of the Qin family to understand the entire situation. All that was clear was that Xu Wuxiao had mastered the skill of slashing the sky. Entrance to the tournament field. There were too many people at the gate in the early hours of the morning. Today, Xu Wuxiao will go up against Chai Gongping. The crowd was buzzing. People didn't understand why Xu Wuxiao hadn't come to the arena yet. Some suggested that the guy overestimated his abilities and at the last moment, being afraid of the enemy, decided to run away. No one doubted that Chai Gongping was the most powerful person in the post-reborn stage in the entire city, so no one was surprised by Xu Wuxiao's cowardice. Chai Gongping was waiting for the competition to start at the side on a comfortable chaise longue. The servants suggested that the master leave the arena because, according to rumors, Xu Wuxiao fled in fear, but Chai Gongping insisted that he should wait just a little longer. If the guy still doesn't show up, the servants will go to the Qin family and force them to hand over their son-in-law. Today, Xu Wuxiao was going to die no matter what. Chai Gongping swore that he would do his best to destroy the elder master's relative. Yu Fen was sitting on the roof looking bored. From this position, it was much more convenient to watch the upcoming battle. In the last few minutes, Yu Fen began to doubt that Xu Wuxiao would arrive for the competition, but Dai Yao Yao assured that the guy would not be long in coming. After all, he made a bet with her. The rumbling of the heavens crashed down on the earth. Xu Wuxiao's scarlet flame stabbed into the center of the arena. The crowd was swept away by powerful gusts of wind, and the dust mercilessly blurred their eyes. Chai Gongping's anger didn't stop boiling, and the man was ready to destroy his opponent at any moment. Xu Wuxiao solemnly announced that today would be the last day of Chai Gongping's life, but the man didn't hear the words. He was preoccupied with his intention to end the young guy's life during the competition. The fighters took off from their seats and collided in the central arena. Fire Tiger vs. Blue Dragon. the battle began. The audience actively defended their favorites. The fight has only just begun, and the tension is already off the scale. It seems that today's fight will be the most spectacular performance in the entire history of the Linen Pride. Today, the city will get an answer to the most important question: who is the best fighter? Almost in a whisper, Dai Yo begged Xu Wushao not to disappoint her. Shi Gongping was infuriated beyond control when he found out that Xu Wushao had been hiding all of his powers until now. Both opponents were at the peak of the post-reborn stage. If Xu Wushao said that he had achieved a breakthrough just a couple of days ago, Shi Gongping still wouldn't believe him. Shi Gongping laughed. Now the guy can say whatever he wants. Only in his words there will no longer be meaning and necessity. Shi Gongping had no doubt that Xu Wushao was about to fall from his deadly third-stage martial technique. Eyewitnesses were delighted. Shi Gongping had mastered the master level of a third-degree martial technique. No wonder he was reputed to be the best in Linen City. Shi Gongping was able to master the third-stage technique at the post-reborn level. In the eyes of others, Xu Wushao simply didn't stand a chance of winning. Xu Wushao now understood why Shi Gongping had decided to postpone the competition until that day. However, third-level techniques were not as rare as commonly believed. It just so happened that Xu Wushao also managed to obtain one incredible ability. Shi Gongping, eager to finish the competition, aimed the blades of 1,000 hooks at Xu Wushao. For Shi Gongping, this was a win-win ability after all. Not one of his opponents had failed to master it yet. For a moment, the central competition arena and the surrounding spectator areas were engulfed in white light. The flash lit up the entire area, followed by a deafening explosion. Xu Wushao unleashed a heaven-splitting punch. Truly, the battle between the best warriors from the younger generation turned out to be the most exciting performance in the entire 1,000-year history of Linen City. Xu Wushao's punch was so powerful that thunderclaps rolled many hundreds of kilometers away from the competition venue. The head of the Qin family arrived at the arena with his children. The senior master only prayed for one thing. Xu Wushao must definitely stay alive, otherwise the head of the Qin family will not settle accounts with brother Xu. Qin Qingmo blamed herself for not being able to talk her husband out of certain death, as she was afraid of her father's panic. Even from his wife, the guy hid the true capabilities of martial arts, so the girl did not know that Xu Wushao still has a chance. Yongji was most concerned about Xu Wushao's fate. The boy was taught from childhood that the honor of the Qin family is the main wealth that is worth preserving in this life. Xu Wushao was now fighting for the honor of the Qin family, and Yongji was very worried that losing his son-in-law would affect the entire dynasty and every member of it. Behind the columns of dust and clouds of smoke, it was impossible to see what was happening in the battle arena. Silence fell over the entire area. The crowd waited with bated breath for the winner's name to be announced. Minutes passed, and the smoke didn't clear. The eldest master began to fear the tragic end more and more. Qin Qingmo, even though she was trying to put her father and brother to rest, was in the highest state of excitement herself. The crowd began to come alive. The winner's name rang through the ranks. The best warrior in Linen City is Xu Wushao. Xu Wushao actually won. The eldest master's joy was boundless. He's finally fulfilled his father's will with success, and he can do it. The younger master rejoiced with his father. In the early days, Xu Wushao did not let down or defame the Qin family's honest name. For the sake of such an occasion, Yongji was willing to call his relative's son-in-law many, many more times. Qin Qingmo watched cautiously as her husband basked in the glory. In an instant, Xu Wushao became the most adored person in Linen City and far beyond. At the peak of the post-reborn stage, the third stage technique was not an easy test. It seems that Dai Yo was very wrong about her friend's abilities. Xu Wushao won the bet fairly, so it's not difficult for a beautiful lady to fulfill any of his wishes. Yu Fen also wanted to know about the mysterious bet between Dai Yo and Xu Wushao. The guy did not tactfully interfere with the thoughts of his companion, and she did not approve of his intentions to meddle in other people's affairs. Dai Yo wanted to think of a way to temper Xu Wushao's temper. Knowing his temperament, he could make monstrous demands. The beautiful lady took her companion in her arms and went home. They still had a lot of things to do today, but the main thing is to kill the person behind the Xi family. Before sending his opponent to heaven, Xu Wuzhou wanted to hear a few words of farewell from him. Shi Gongping didn't play with his fate and ordered Lu Xu Wuzhou to kill him immediately. The man didn't understand how anyone could be such a vile person to hide their true identity so deeply. Shi Gongping had often done this himself, but he didn't think that there was anyone in the world who could surpass him in skill. The man assured that it would not end with his death alone. Shi Gongping vowed to destroy the Tu family and make them pay for their blood debts. It was easy for Shi Gongping to turn the lives of dozens of people into a nightmare on earth. Since Shi Gongping had nothing else to say, Xu Wuzhou decided to send him to hell as soon as possible, because such a scoundrel only belongs there. Xu Wuzhou opened up a huge chasm above the enemy, which was ready to swallow up anyone who came close to it. Shi Gongping's days were numbered, and right now he had to go to the bottom of human torment. Xu Wuzhou continued to cut down on space, while at the same time depriving the opponent of his physical body. As soon as the guy defeated the junior representative of the Qi family, the senior representative of the dynasty came to the arena. Xu Wuzhou just grinned at how quickly the rules of the tournament had changed. The competition was now like a team battle. The crowd fell silent for a moment, and then the talk returned to the arena. Everyone in and around the city knew Qi Lingyuan, the senior master of the Qi family. However, no one could have imagined that the venerable master would personally come to the battle arena today. Shi Guangzhou is one of the 10 great warriors of Linen City. The Xi family has completely lost their shame. The contestants agreed to fight to the death, but the old man dared to interfere. The venerable master dared to interfere with the younger generation's showdown. This was an audacity that the walls of the ancient city hadn't seen before. If Chai Guangzhou decided to obstruct the competition, then he must have caused a huge number of different problems on his own accord. The senior master of the Qin family was about to fight back against the intruder when he was stopped by Shi Guangzhou's men. People asked the elder master to die fervently. If the man couldn't restrain himself, a fight between the two greatest families of Lin, an ancient city, would soon break out in the arena. Another strong argument for not getting into a fight was the presence of the Qin family's son and daughter. Shi Guangzhou's people will definitely try to harm them as well, so that the Xi dynasty won't have any competitors in the future. Shi Guangzhou offered to end the competition. Since the people have already recognized the young man as a new hero, it makes no sense to finish off the enemy. The father really wanted to save his son and then go on a brutal offensive against the Qin family. Since ancient times, there has been a visible and invisible struggle between the great dynasties. Today should be a crucial day for two powerful clans. Xu Wuzhou reminded everyone present of the requirements of the current competition. In the beginning, the two sides had sworn to fight to the death, so only Xu Wuzhou had the right to control Shi Gongping's life, and Shi Guangzhou's opinion was not taken into account. Shi Guangzhou watched with interest as the person with the post-reborn stage threatened to attack him. The venerable master had no doubt that in one blow he would be able to deal with the annoying boy. Xu Wuzhou activated the Heaven's Slashing Strike and charged in. The post-born stage hurt the pre-born one. This has never happened in Linen City before. No one in the square could believe that the Qin family's son-in-law had managed to defeat the strongest person in the entire area with such ease. It looked like Shi Lingyuan had underestimated him right now, but the townspeople were sure that if the old man started another competition, Xu Wuzhou would definitely be in trouble. In his ability to fight those above his level, he surpasses Xiao Hopo himself. If today doesn't go down in history, the heavens won't stand for it. Xu Wuzhou had yet to reach the level of a master in the Heaven Slashing Strike technique. Even a pre-born stage would need to work hard to fend off his attack. Xu Wuzhou had already warned the venerable master once, and he wasn't going to repeat it again. If Chai Guangzhou crossed the line again, the guy would be forced to split him into several pieces. At this moment, there was a real commotion in the square. Some eyewitnesses even thought that Xu Wuzhou's powerful strength had driven him mad, as it was physically impossible to kill a pre-reborn stage while on a post-reborn stage. Shi Guangzhou made a mistake when he passed the young man's attack through. Realizing his mistake, the man decided to teach He Wushu a lesson. Shi Guoxiao activated the most famous and powerful of all his techniques. It was with this fighting ability that Venerable Master managed to win the hearts of thousands of people. There was no doubt in the minds of the gentlemen who submitted that they were assured of victory. The senior master of the Qin family held his breath. He had already known Shi Guangzhou and his fighting abilities for many years. Judging from the man's intent, Shi Guangzhou was now planning to use Tiger Fist and 1,000 volleys. The Venerable Master was sure that no living thing could survive after such a thing. The man advised Xu Wuxiao to say goodbye to his family and get ready to go to heaven. The phantom tiger was unthinkable in size, and its speed was second only to that of light. The monster was rushing towards Xu Wuxiao and was ready to tear him apart at any moment. Qin Qinmo, who had been watching the fight all this time, begged her husband to give up and return to the Qin family's manor. This city didn't yet know the name of the lucky person who could dodge the phantom tiger's attack. The senior master of the Qin family begged Xu Wuxiao to return home as much as his daughter. It was already enough that the guy had defeated Shi Gongping. The rest wasn't worth the sacrifice. The senior master would blame himself first, since he was the one who was assigned by Xu Wuxiao's father to look after his son. Yongji had just acknowledged Xu Wuxiao as his son-in-law a few minutes ago and was begging him not to die so quickly. All the shouting and excitement from the crowd didn't reach Xu Wuxiao. The roar in the battle arena was ready to drown out everything. This time, Shi Gongping swung at an opponent who was too tough for him. Tiger Fist is a technique that has made Chai Linyuan a global legend. But this time, he would definitely lose. The audience didn't stop whispering and spreading rumors. Some exclaimed that building castles in the air while loitering around was pointless. Some people resented the fact that Xu Wuxiao was about to embark on the path of success without having a great reputation. Others claimed that if it wasn't for the Qin family's loyalty to their principles and the contract wedding, Xu Wuxiao would have long since become a beggar on the countless streets of Linen City. Especially fearless people called the young man a despicable worm and the main disgrace of the ancient city. This time, Xu Wuxiao was being self-willed because he wanted to prove to the world that he was worthy of the Qin family like no other. The reigns of terror and the will of swords rained down on the phantom tiger. It took Shi Guangzhou a lot of effort to keep the magical creature in action. But the phantom tiger was melting more and more in front of the excited audience by the minute. The Venerable Master begged for mercy, but it was too late. Xu Wuxiao was driven by the desire to prove his rightness and strength to the whole world. Now the young man has nothing to stop at in achieving this goal. One after another, powerful strikes covered the battle arena. Flashes flashed over Gord and lit up the entire area. From the endless roar, the witnesses finally fell into the highest degree of excitement. No one could understand what was currently happening to their heroes in the battle arena. Some viewers felt cheated. After all, it was now clear to everyone that both opponents were in the pre-nascent stage of martial arts. Tears rolled down Qin Qinmo's cheeks. Only when the smoke clears, the girl will be able to learn about the fate of her husband. It was impossible to guess the outcome of the monstrous contest now. Gradually, the dust began to settle on the ground, and someone's silhouette began to loom in the distance. Qin Qinmo immediately recognized the winner as her husband. Without thinking, she rushed to meet him, but at the last moment decided to restrain her feelings. Xu Wuxiao hugged his wife and apologized for making the entire Qin family very worried. In the future, the guide promised not to act so recklessly, but after today's events, it was unlikely that anyone would believe in his words. When he was alone with his thoughts, Xu Wuxiao admitted to himself how scared he was during the fight. It was a good thing that he had a cup with him that replenishes blood and energy. If it wasn't for her, Xu Wuxiao wouldn't even have a wet spot left, even though the silent sword technique was involved. Shi Gongping is dead. Even Xi Guoxiao, the legend of Linen City, is not in the best condition right now. The Xi family had 2 warriors in the pre-birth stage. Now that one of them is gone, the power of the dynasty may be drastically reduced. The excited audience thought that this battle was just a brawl between 2 members of the younger generation. No one would have thought that today would change the balance of power with Linen City once and for all. Followers of the Qi family, we were at a loss. One of their masters is dead, and the other will never be of any use. The servants decided to blame the senior master of the Qin family for the incident because, in their opinion, the man for a long time helped his son-in-law hide his true identity, which is capable of destroying the entire existing order in the world. The senior master was recognized as the most cunning person in Linen City because his cunning plan worked perfectly. Eyewitnesses couldn't help but marvel at the way the honorary Qin dynasty official portrayed an unflinching fear for his son-in-law's life as he fought Shi Gongping and his father on the battlefield. The senior master of the Qin family tried to explain to the public that Shi Wuzhou's strength was a real discovery for him, but no one wanted to believe the words of the venerable ruler. Shi Guangzhou had already died at the hands of the Qin family's son-in-law, but Mem and In had the audacity to continue being impertinent to the venerable master. Shu Wushao invited Xi's servants to enter the arena and fight a fair fight. But after the previous competition, it was clear that only the gods could compete with the guy. M was indignant and tried to assure everyone that Shu Wushao would never be able to save the Qin family, even if he mastered other powerful abilities. M decided to be honest with Shu Wushao. Families were preparing to sell a batch of weapons with the will of swords. Soon, the Tsai dynasty would take over Linen City's weapon market and eliminate all of its competitors. That's when the Qin family will lose their main source of income. M gloated. He had no doubt that after a resounding defeat, the Qin family would be forced to beg for mercy on the streets of the cities. Qin Kingmo didn't understand why the merchants would adopt such strange postures. There was no point in their words, and their strange postures took away the last of their dignity. Shu Wuzhou had anticipated this development in advance, so he didn't see any threats in the Chai family's promises. At this moment, a servant of the Qi dynasty hurried to deliver the news straight from the armory market. In the beginning, indeed, many martial artists came for the Chai family's weapons. The product sold out very quickly. Such a short time frame struck absolutely all merchants. The Qin family's weapons, on the other hand, were ignored. Just now, the Qin family introduced their new weapon, which also has the properties of sword wheels. More importantly, the quality of the Qin family's products is twice as good as that of the Qi dynasty. Now, martial artists who rush to buy low-quality weapons feel cheated. Hundreds of craftsmen are attacking the shops of the Qi dynasty and demand to return the funds back. The deceived martial artists realized that they couldn't find the truth in the market square, so they went straight to the battle arena. There, they instantly noticed their abuser and decided to surround him. If the Qi family didn't return the funds to the mages before tonight, then all the vendors would be severely beaten up. Nem tried to run away from responsibility, but it didn't work out at all. The masters continued to demand their money back, and Sohn decided to leave his partner and escape alone. Nem tried to restrain the man, but he broke free and hurried home to help the dog, which he never had. The angry crowd was unable to contain their anger. Every master present here wanted to take revenge on the deceiver. The mages threw themselves into the fray. Nem begged them to hit anything but their hair. In a matter of minutes, the man was torn apart by the crowd. Nem had already agreed to return all funds and pay additional amounts for moral damages, but the offended merchant's masters had already not heard, and ran away from the training ground without stopping to look back. The man was sure that you can throw a friend to death, but the main thing is not to throw yourself, and only wished his partner strength and patience. In front of the man, there was already a massive gate that was his exit from the training ground. Just a few more meters and In could feel safe. But luck wasn't on the side of the cheetah seller today. Shu Wuzhou tripped the man, and In fell to the ground with a resounding pop. Shu Wuzhou stopped the dishonest salesman on purpose because he wanted to make fun of the simple-minded scoundrel. At first, the young man exchanged a couple of short phrases with In, and then handed him over to the offended masters. They were already lined up behind the man, ready to attack at any moment. The masters did not agree that only one merchant would be responsible for the debts. In was also involved in the deception, and the man still hasn't expressed his opinion about the weapon. Shu Wushao ordered the masters to pull the In aside. There, the man should have felt all the same things as Nim. In Shu Wuzhou's opinion, friends should be together for better or worse, so In could forget about running away. The Shi family's training field. A servant was rushing to the manor to report the unpleasant news to his master. Xu Wuxiao demonstrated his skill and not only defeated Xi Gongping, but also killed the legend of the Qi family. Then, according to the agreement, the Xi family is forced to give the guy the residence of common ancestors. The servant couldn't figure out what they should do now. Xu Wuxiao has no problem killing people even in the pre-birth stage. The venerable master told everyone to pack up their valuables and leave. The servants were to destroy everything that could not be carried away. The venerable master swore to leave no stone unturned for Xu Wuxiao. A man would rather destroy the entire Xi family residence than allow a member of another clan to rule here. Xu Wuxiao had heard everything that the venerable master had just said. The guide wasn't going to let Mr. Shai destroy his residence now. Besides, Xu Wuxiao was no longer a fool to be tricked. Xu Wuxiao had a deal with the Shai dynasty. The young man had defeated Shi Gongping fairly and therefore had every right to take control of the residence. And if Mr. Shai decided to ruin the property of a well-respected person in the city, then it's time for him to retire. Mr. Shai begged Xu Wuxiao to fear God because the deal was on the estate itself, not what was inside it. At first, the young man was going to do just that and not claim the family's personal belongings, but after hearing Mr. Shi's words, Xu Wuxiao changed his mind. The venerable master was determined to level the entire estate to the ground so that no one else would get it. Mr. Shi has gone too far, so there is no point in waiting for mercy now. Now, anyone who has the guts to touch Xu Wuxiao's personal belongings is going to die. The manor's servants, hearing the commotion in the training ground, hurried over to make sure their master was safe. The servants arrived at the scene and realized that there was nothing they could do to help their master. They were no match for Xu Wuxiao. Even if the previous hero of the city fell at the hands of a young guy, then the rest of the city residents should not try their luck. Lord Shi's personal army arrived at the manor. These people didn't know what their opponent was capable of yet. The army commander gave the command to surround the stranger. The servants cheered. The army had a special plan to lure the young man into a trap. But even the commander himself wasn't entirely sure that Xu Wuxiao would personally arrive at the Shai dynasty manor. Last time, Xu Wuxiao had caused a big mayhem in the residence, so today, the commander had forked out money and invited a couple of hired masters to join his ranks. The man claimed that the guy's strength lost any meaning at the sight of a huge number of opponents. Xu Wuxiao didn't like the plan right away, but Mr. Shi insisted that it was just the beginning. The main focus was that after competing with powerful people, the young man would be seriously exhausted. If Mr. Shi captured Xu Wuxiao alive, then he could sell him to the Qin family, and they would pay a huge sum of money for their beloved son-in-law, who had made them famous throughout Linen City and far beyond. Xu Wuxiao didn't like idle chatter, even though he often found himself doing it himself. Not wanting to listen to the stupid old man, the guy hit Mr. Shai, and the latter could not stand on his feet. Xu Wuxiao was right after all. The venerable master didn't even realize his position. In recent years, the Shi family has weakened so much that it has had to recruit additional masters into its personal army. Mr. Shai was completely weakened, and it was no longer possible for him to strike alone. The man called on the loyal army to help, and its fighters, without hesitation, rushed into battle. To Xu Wuxiao, this fight was more like a child's play than a real battle. Stupid fighters were scattered everywhere, but it was Mr. Shai who got the most. A few minutes later, Mr. Shi kneeled down and presented Xu Wuxiao with the key to the residence's entrance doors. If the venerable ruler had immediately understood what was going on, then the guy wouldn't have had to start a fight with a huge number of victims. After settling all the formalities, Xu Wuxiao ordered the old residents of the manor to leave immediately. Lord Shi personally led his servants out of the house, not forgetting to remind them that not a single thing should be touched. Before taking possession of the land, the young man decided to explore his possessions in the hope that he might find something truly valuable. Mr. Shi hadn't gone far enough yet, so he understood Xu Wuxiao's intentions. There are no valuables left in the manor for a long time. The Shi family residence is like an empty shell. The ancient treasures had long been hidden away in other places. Mr. Shi predicted the moment when the young man would want to use the relics of the old dynasty. The venerable elder did not want to leave anything to the young scoundrel. And a few years ago, the servants, under the careful guidance of their master, took all the treasures far outside the palace. In the distance, Mr. Shi heard a long familiar voice. The girl said that all the riches of the Shai dynasty had long been hidden away in other places. The estate itself is of no value whatsoever. It was the daughter of Venerable Master Shai. The girl was willing to show Master Xu all the places where the Shi family's relics were once buried. But in return for the help, was going to take a small promise from the young man. Seeing the young lady's sincere impulses, Xu Wuchao wasn't going to refuse even the most demanding requests. The guy took over the estate solely because of its riches. The young lady only wanted Xu Wuchao to kill Shi Sheng. The servants were perplexed. The daughter wants to kill her own father and also an important ruler. It also came as a great surprise to Mr. Shai that his daughter was able to find out about the secret vault. This was unacceptable. Mr. Shi was determined not to let family secrets be revealed. Breaking free of the guards, Mr. Shi threw himself at his own daughter. The man was going to kill the young lady before she could. Xu Wuchao stopped the strong hand. He couldn't let the only person willing to point the way to untold treasures die at the hands of his own father. Mr. Shi had overestimated himself this time too. Xu Wuchao only needed a small amount of effort to send the huge man straight into the wall. Kek coquettishly thanked the young man for saving her. Xu Wuchao kept wanting to know the reason why a daughter wanted her own father dead. The girl explained that her father never treated her like a daughter. Instead, the man kept K as a thing. In his eyes, the girl was worth less than the thinnest cattle. On the day when Mother was tortured to death by Memen, Mr. Shai was on their side. Shi Gongping did whatever he wanted with the poor girl. At the same time, Mr. Shi always met the scoundrel with open arms. Kik insisted that as soon as her father died, her mother's spirit would finally rest in peace. Mr. Shai didn't know how to reassure his daughter since she was a direct threat to his reputation. Now that Mr. Shi's name was already trampled into the mud, the man didn't want to completely disappear at the bottom of disasters. Once again, Mr. Shai attacked his own daughter. Since Xu Wuchao was very interested in the place that Kek had told him about, he was willing to protect it with his life. With one powerful punch, the young man threw Mr. Shi several hundred kilometers away. Flying over the square from a powerful blow, the venerable ruler hit several stone buildings with his huge body and tore them to the ground. Now the Shai dynasty army also knew that they were no match for the young man. Xu Wuchao was truly strong, and it was simply impossible to match something like that. This time, Mr. Shi knew that his end was near. Xu Wuchao dealt a powerful blow to the energy meridians and left the man a helpless invalid for life. Kek thought that this time, too, revenge on her own father would be incomprehensible. But stupid old man Shai angered venerable Master Xu Wuchao. The girl was going to take full advantage of the opportunity that had been sent to her by the heavens themselves. After dealing a few blows to her father, finally calmed down. Now she had avenged all her own mother's suffering. The spirit of the deceased parent can now rest in peace in heaven. Xu Wuchao had completed the request, and now it was the Kag's turn. The girl promised the young master to accompany him to the burial site of all the relics of the Shai dynasty. In the Shi family's secret vault, the gold bars were stacked on top of each other, not fitting in the fudges Stu had set aside for them. There was much more precious here than the young man could have imagined. Now, all of Xu Wuchao's dreams of fantastic wealth have come true. Thanks to the countless gold bars, endless cultivation was opened up for the guy. Now it was possible to move from stage to stage almost every day. Kek has been on the sidelines all this time. It was very interesting for her to watch all the actions of the new owner of these treasures, but at some point, the girl began to notice the oddities in Xu Wuchao's behavior. Kek speculated that it was because the Shi family had once brought some of their wealth as a gift to the Qi family. She was afraid that this was the reason why Xu Wuchao was unhappy. She didn't want to incur the wrath of Grand Master, so she decided to offer herself in exchange for the treasures that had once been lost from the common vault. Xu Wuchao genuinely didn't understand how all the girls in this world could be so free. Never in any other place has a guide been so insistently offered face-to-face meetings. Xu Wuxiao had never noticed the strange behavior of the female residents here before. If something goes wrong, girls will rather take off their clothes than try to figure out what's going on. Xu Wuxiao asked the girl to relax because he was a broad-minded person who would definitely not let his companion feel uncomfortable. At first, worried that her body was not to the young master's taste, but then the girl was finally convinced that the master liked her. However, even if the Kusu offered the young master its body, Xu Wuxiao still lacked gold bars. In addition, the guy already had a wife, which was not part of his plans to change. As soon as Yongji found out that his son-in-law had inherited a luxurious residence with untold wealth, he hurried to personally congratulate his relative. After learning about the location of the manor, Yongji went to visit his son-in-law, not forgetting to bring his younger sister along. Qin Qingmo was also pleased to know that her lover had reached unprecedented heights among the townspeople and had also obtained a huge Shi family residence. Yongji found his son-in-law in a very dubious situation. A young man had his arm around a beautiful young lady's bare shoulders. Their faces were so close that if they moved too carefully, they might touch. Yongji was even more taken aback by the surprise. The guy had never been in a situation like this before. Unable to think of anything better, Yongji hurried away. The situation was aggravated by the kiss, which was no less frightened than Yongji. The girl screamed so loudly that it was almost as if she was being brutally tortured. Xu Wuxiao tried to take control of the situation, but neither the first time nor the second time did he really succeed. Cake continued to shout, and Yongji ran around the storage area. Then the young master realized that he simply had to tell his sister what had happened. Unfortunately for Xu Wuxiao, Qin Qingmo had arrived at the manor with her brother and was now following him to the storage area. The CC was ordered to leave the premises immediately. Xu Wuxiao tried to explain the true state of things to Yongji, but the flustered young man refused to hear anything. Qin Qingmo entered the vault. She immediately noticed the confusion in the air. Xu Wuxiao assured his wife that nothing strange had happened. He simply unearthed a huge vault of gold bars and found a beautiful pearl necklace that would fit his wife perfectly. The young man explained that he only wanted to give a gift, but Yongji, as always, ruined everything. The necklace really suited Qin Qingmo incredibly well. The girl did not stop admiring her reflection in the mirror. Qin Qingmo was distracted from his pleasant task by her brother, who suddenly came to his senses. The guy didn't give up on his intention to warn his sister about the deception, but Xu Wuxiao reacted too quickly and didn't let his relative say a word. The young master began threatening Yongji with upcoming training sessions to improve martial arts. After learning about the training, Yongji decided not to push his luck and give up. Xu Wuxiao's CC was dealt with, and Qingmo decided to stay with him. One could only hope that Xu Wuxiao wouldn't have any more problems with his new acquaintances. Late at night, Xu Wuxiao rested on the roof and thought about the events of the day. A beautiful lady flying by decided not to leave the young man without attention. Dai Yao Yao scoffed at the guy and suggested that he was kicked out of the house by his wife again. Xu Wuxiao remembered the beautiful lady's words that she was willing to do whatever the young master asked her to do. Dai Yao Yao asked her acquaintance to cool down because she had come to this place at a late hour just to settle the matter of the bet. Xu Wuxiao noticed that he and Dai Yao Yao were currently alone in the middle of the night. Others may misunderstand a man and a woman who decided to stay alone in the dead of night. Xu Wuxiao never wanted to worry his wife about nothing, so this time he warned his companion that he would be extremely careful. Dai Yao Yao promised that this time the meeting will be held in the best possible way, and therefore the young man should just trust and follow the beautiful lady. Dai Yao Yao had prepared a surprise that wasn't worth giving up on. In the Qi residence, Patriarch Che Tao watched over Mr. Shai, who was currently in a terrible state. Mr. Shai claimed that Xu Wuxiao had crossed all conceivable boundaries. Now, the venerable ruler was reduced to a helpless cripple by the young man's will. Mr. Shai begged the council to avenge him. If the patriarchs don't do it now, Xu Wuxiao will become even stronger. One day, his power will increase to unimaginable limits, and then no one will be able to stop the young master. Shouting and begging for revenge, Mr. Shai was ordered to be carried out of the patriarchal council hall. Xu Wuxiao didn't understand why Dai Yao Yao and Yu Fen had dragged him to a strange place at such a late hour. A few minutes later, the young master was watching the patriarchal council decide on the future existence of Mr. Shai. One of the patriarchs assured that now the venerable ruler is not needed by anyone. A cripple will be of no use, only endless worry. Moreover, the Shi family's wealth could be divided among the three families, but Xu Wuxiao was still an unsolvable problem for the Patriarchy Council. The council knew that if they didn't get rid of the young master now, they would have a lot more trouble in the future. But Xu Wuxiao's level has increased several times, and even the Patriarchy Council is no longer able to fight him. Be assured his comrades that they had nothing to fear, because the men had a trump card prepared for Xu Wuxiao. He's no more than a child in the postpartum stage, and with the hired masters, it's only a matter of time before he dies. With the re-establishment of the imperial credo, the entire family will become the Castellan of Enlin. The imperial creed is an ancient religion in Qiushui Prefecture. Dai Yao Yao explained that the representatives of the religion are nothing more than a bunch of cowardly fools. Their leaders are even afraid to set foot in the city, so they only sent a couple of pawns to do all the dirty work for them. The surprise from the beautiful lady really did Xu Wuxiao some good. Once the young master kills the representatives of the imperial creed, the Qin family will be able to enjoy peace. Yu Fen warned Xu Wuxiao that he would not fight alongside him. Yu Fen had a strict father who would not punish his son if he found out about the fights with the imperial cred. In fact, Dai Yao Yao didn't intend to fight either. There was a sudden silence. Both Yu Fen and Dai Yao Yao simply didn't want to destroy the imperial credo representatives on their own, so they put all the work on Xu Wuxiao. The young master immediately guessed the intentions of his acquaintances, which surprised them. To them, the city is an unusual place, and Dai Yao Yao and Yu Fen won't dare set foot outside its walls. Furthermore, Xu Wuxiao was the only person that Master Xu trusted. The young master agreed to do all of Xu Wuxiao's work for 300 taels. Yu Fen immediately became angry. The guy had never seen such a huge amount of money in his life, and therefore Xu Wuxiao simply robbed two poor acquaintances. The master assured that his actions also made sense. The beautiful lady agreed to the deal too quickly, so Xu Wuxiao started to blame himself for asking for too little payment. In an attempt to rectify the situation, the young master announced that he intended to charge 300 taels each, and if the mages don't want to pay, they'll have to do all the work themselves. Dai Yao Yao reminded her companion that removing 2 imperial creed followers was an urgent matter. The Council of Patriarchs agreed to leave Xu Wuxiao to follow the imperial creed. The mercenaries couldn't stop bragging about their skills, and the guides assured them that a person with such a low stage of spirit wouldn't be a hindrance to them. The Council of Patriarchs had no idea that Xu Wuxiao would dare to personally come to their palace. For the mercenaries, the appearance of the order only made their work easier. The soldiers were about to begin their mission when one of the patriarchs decided to warn them. Xu Wuxiao killed 2 imperial creed masters in 1 minute. The Council of Patriarchs was immediately caught up in an engulfing panic. 2 experienced fighters were killed in the blink of an eye. Xu Wuxiao offered Ying a choice: get rid of him or prefer 2 followers of the imperial creed. Without waiting for an answer, the young master warned the men that in the future they should dream less and do more business. Bi didn't hold back his anger when he realized what had really happened to him. Xu Wuxiao most brazenly entered his estate and killed 2 hired masters from the imperial credo. The patriarch fell to his knees and prayed to heaven to send him a powerful man who would be able to rid the world of the insolent boy. It was very clear to the Patriarchy Council that Xu Wuxiao was being helped by someone in the shadows. The first thing he decided to do was prepare gifts for the Qin family. Thus, the patriarch wanted to personally see the situation in the ruling dynasty. The information obtained by Commercant will be needed in order to build a new insidious plan. At the manor, Shi Yufen and Dai Yao Yao were congratulating their friend on another victory. The beautiful lady confirmed the words of her acquaintance that Xu Wuxiao should only rely on himself. After tonight's events, the Mao and Li families were terrified. They definitely won't cause any trouble in the near future. Yu Fen had heard rumors that Sei Wuxiao had found a new concubine, so he decided to personally ask his friend about it. The young master denied all the rumors with dignity. He had a wife who he didn't want to change at all. On the roof of a neighboring house, a noisy group saw the silhouette of a cake. Yu Fen and Dai Yao Yao immediately started cheering on their buddy and making up stories about love trysts. Xu Wuchao asked him not to make a big deal out of a molehill because he was already on his way to the girl right now to correct all the misunderstandings that had arisen. In fact, the Xiqi had only come at such a late hour to tell Xu Wuchao about the ability that allowed the girl to connect with the world of the dead. Communication with the afterlife could cause both trouble and bring significant benefits. It was thanks to the afterlife that Cake had managed to survive, and now the girl was determined to bring Xu Wuchao there as well. Yu Fen and Dai Yao Yao suddenly appeared in front of the control room, startling the girl. The company was going to go to the afterlife together with Xu Wuxiao. After confirming that Yu Fen and Dai Yao Yao were not dangerous, the Keeks finally decided to listen to them. Dai Yao Yao only knew about the afterlife from legends, and if there was a chance to get there, the beautiful lady was not going to miss it. Dai Yao Yao was sure that perhaps this was where the great enlightenment was waiting for her. Yu Fen had heard that there were a bunch of ghostly beauties in the afterlife. He really wanted to see at least one of them. Maybe he could even become a ghost rider like Ning Kai Chen. It was decided to open the portal right now. Xu Wuxiao didn't see the point of going deeper into the other world, so he was going to watch from the sidelines. A terrifying aura instantly filled the area. The portal to the afterlife was opened. Yu Fen immediately didn't want to be a ghost rider anymore. Xu Wuchao was also incredibly terrified of the other world. Trying to leave the square, the young master told that today he promised his wife to return early. However, the magic matrix of the afterworld was activated, and everyone within it could no longer escape. Because of the black six-pointed star, neither Yu Fen nor Dai Yao Yao, nor even Xu Wuxiao were able to return home. The matrix was activated, and physical bodies began to be carried along with it to the afterlife portal. 4 phantom souls were transported to the next world. The place the team found themselves in was more like an abundance cave than a terrifying afterlife. The fact is that Kek has never appeared in this place before, and therefore the girl could not give the team any explanation. Yu Fen was desperate. He didn't understand why the group couldn't go back to the normal world. If necessary, the Seas could once again open the afterlife gate, but in a different direction, however. For this, the girl needed a lot of both physical and energy forces. Besides, it will take a long time to open the gate. Xu Wuxiao knew that going to the other world without training wasn't the best idea. Since the team had arrived at this strange place and there was no way to get out yet, it was worth at least looking around. Xu Wuxiao was also someone who had destroyed several powerful enemies, which meant that the young master wasn't afraid of anything. The group decided to head deeper into the cave. Being in the dungeon was getting scarier and scarier by the minute. Xu Wuxiao arrived at a huge cave and decided to stop there for now. The young master stood with his back to the entrance and boasted that he wasn't afraid of anything. Behind Xu Wuxiao, Dai Yao Yao and Kex saw several ghosts. At first, the young man did not believe the naive girls, but when he turned around, he was horrified. A crowd of treacherous monsters emerged from the depths of the cave. After taking a closer look at the monsters, Xu Wuxiao realized that they were just ordinary corpses. But Dai Yao Yao found all these corpses terribly familiar. They were the Sea Lord of the Star Sect, the leader of the Divine Antiquities, the mentor of the Yin Yang Academy, and the Lord of the Hills of Divine Immortality. Several thousand years ago, these corpses ruled territories that stretched for tens of thousands of miles. These are the Supreme Lords, leaders on a par with the Khans and Emperors. A few thousand years ago, all these people went missing. Their disappearance led to the collapse of their respective factions. Dai Yao Yao couldn't even imagine a person who was capable of killing powerful sovereigns. A group of corpses would be enough to tear the entire Kushyu apart. Yu Fen decided to conduct his own investigation. Since these corpses belonged to powerful people, there should definitely be traces of wealth on their bodies. As soon as the guy touched the skeleton, the corpse turned to dust. Dai Yao Yao hurried to scold her stupid friend. Yu Fen almost ruined the entire team by his stupidity. The ashes glowed green, and a new leader rose from the ashes. The entire skeleton army turned against the cave guests. Xu Wuzhao and his friends had no choice but to leave the mysterious crypt as soon as possible. Things were not going well for the team. These ghosts were capable of suppressing the spirit's aura, so using spirit attacks against them was useless. Xu Wuzhao managed to find out that corpses are afraid of blood and energy. If the team wanted to survive, they could only use their own blood as a shield. Yu Fen and Dai Yao cast a special spell, and a strong blood shield was placed over all the heroes. The corpses rushed to attack, but the dome became an insurmountable obstacle for them. If magic and blood kept the ghosts away, it was hard to imagine that they were really ghosts. Xu Wuzhao had also thought about it, but right now, the team needed to think about how to leave the dangerous cave. Cake still couldn't open the gate. An escape plan should be devised as soon as possible. Dai Yao and Yu Fen won't be able to hold the barrier for long. Blood and energy are slowly draining out of their bodies, which means that young people may soon die. Xu Wuzhao had completely forgotten that he had a cup of samsara with him for a special occasion. The Yon Master used the vessel to devour all the other creatures, and there was no trace of the army of corpses left. The flames of blood and energy lit up the entire forgotten cave in the other world. If Dai Yao's memory was correct, then only Chen Jingham was capable of such a thing. It seems that the beautiful lady underestimated Xu Wuzhao. After all, no one would have thought that a simple guy would have such frightening talents. Yu Fen rushed to hug Xu Wuzhao. In the young master, the guy saw an older brother. Yu Fen admired his mentor's abilities whenever possible. Xu Wuzhao only regretted that he had expended a huge amount of energy just to appear cool. Now the company could return to its own world. Enough time has passed for the Kex to open the gate of the reverse direction afterlife. Before entering the portal, Xu Wuzhao turned his attention to the fiery glowing sphere. It seems that this flow of energy was left behind by ghosts. The sphere was full of strength and energy. Dai Yao explained that Xu Wuzhao was currently holding the primordial blood. It is said that the primordial blood is the blood of heaven, earth, and all living beings. It is the first form and foundation of all blood, holding the great way within. Wherever it appears, the sun is stained with blood and bloody clouds cover the sky. Also, the sphere allows you to accumulate energy and is considered a legendary treasure. The first one to use the primordial blood was entrusted to the Kex. She had the weakest level present, and there were many other similar spheres scattered around the dungeon. Thanks to a single primordial realm, Ke was able to advance to the 5th level of the post-reborn stage. So, the next step for the team is to hunt for the primordial blood orbs.